Hello, hello, hello. At least the picture's good this time. At least the picture quality is good. Let me know if you can hear. We certainly haven't forgot. We're going to be looking at the action. And, well, the games haven't started yet, which is great. So, yeah, lots of action coming up today. And I'm just seeing if the games have started because unfortunately we are a little bit late. Okay, they have started. And good. So, okay, well, I'm going to leave the game Magnus Carlsen versus Anish Geary on the board so we can see how things develop. I'm sorry about the little slightly late start there. I have some little glitches even, but we're live now, and I'm happy that the sound is probably going to be good and that the video is going to be good, except for the person next to me kind of lowers the video quality a little bit, but what can we do about that? But I'm only joking. But you are blurry. Well, I don't seem that blurry. Maybe you're just drunk, probably more likely. And it's the knockout stages, so it's going to be very, very exciting today. And we're going to be talking about the games that are going on, of course. It's Magnus Carlsen versus Anish Geary. And it is the stage where they play today, they play tomorrow, 4 games today. And it's basically a mini match today. So each of these guys play 4 games, and whoever gets a plus score at the end of it, well, if they do get a plus score, wins the mini match. So they basically win today. If it's a draw at the end of the day, then, well, it's a draw as such. So pretty simple. And then tomorrow they do the same again. And if after the 2 days, it's like one person won today, one person wins tomorrow, it's 1-1. So they then have to play a playoff. I hope that makes sense. We will try to fill you on in any questions as we go. I will introduce my good friend in a minute, but let's just say quickly hello to everyone in the chat. So hello, Plocrux. Hello, Swede Chess. Hello, Captain Bonratti. Hello, son. I'm sneaking in a quick cut of coffee, watching you guys. Looking forward to this. It should be fun. Merry Hatman. Hello, sir. Hello, Peeling Smite. Tamhas. Canlex. Mifra and everyone else. So anyway, over to the person I'm going to be joined with for summer today until he gets so drunk he can't move the mouse, even though I'm moving the mouse. It's a very good friend, Blair, who you may or may not know, and I'll let him say hello in a second. Sorry, I'm really talking a lot today. This is a nice change in dynamics. And I've done the Jabava London course with Blair for GingerGM. So you may have seen Blair and me presenting that course there, which you can buy. And we're having a Black Friday sale starting midnight today. So keep an eye on that. Everything's going to be very cheap. And Blair and me have just been working on a new chessball course, which Blair's been doing a lot of hard work on. And I've now got to finish filming the videos at some point, which will be coming out soon. So Blair, hello, sir. How are you doing?
Good evening, Simon. Good evening, everyone. Looking forward to this.
Good. And you're doing well?
I'm not doing too badly. I've been very busy of late, as you said, working hard in conjunction with you on an exciting new course, E4, E5, some good lines for black. So I noticed that Hikaru played one of the lions against Magnus yesterday, so nice to see that as well.
Definitely.
Or was it the day before? I can't quite remember. I think it was yesterday.
Might be. And the course that we're bringing out on Chessball, I'm doing the filming. We've been both working on it together. It was a course that I was actually preparing as a secret. Blair's a very good worker on chess, and over the last couple of years, we've been looking at a repertoire starting with E4, E5. So this is what it's from the black side. So we've been suggesting this move, and I was going to keep it secret until I get a chance to play it in the tournament. But as there's no tournaments going on at the moment, we're going to release it as a dynamite course. So what's the idea of the course, Blair, before we go on to the actual chess? Tell us about what this course is going to be all about. And
well, I remember we first discussed the idea of trying to get you to try and play E5, and you sent me the task of trying to find some interesting, not necessarily sidelines, but aggressive lines which give you a bit of fun, something decent to play for.
That's right, and that's basically what the whole thing is. So it's going to be a very fun repertoire coming out of Chessball quite soon, where you're going to have a laugh and get lots of attacking positions. What more do you want? Hello to Perno in the chat from Gibraltar. Did you know, Blair, that Perno has GingerGM.com tattooed on his arse? And that is.
I'd like to think
Sorry.
I'd like to think there's some sort of financial inducement in order to get that.
Yeah, I think I brought him a beer. So, hello,
I'm assuming
Perno.
I'm assuming this wasn't done at sober o'clock.
Maybe not done at sober o'clock, and that's actually a true story. Perno does. But
It's basically some sort of corporate branding.
Corporate branding. We're starting to brand people's bottoms. So if anyone else wants to get involved and you want to brand your bottom with GingerGM.com, then we will basically give you a free DVD. What a bargain. So another thing we do want to mention, we've just set up a new Discord server. Now, this is something you can get on. It's a bit of a community, and it's only the first days of setting it up, but you can follow the link below the video, and we're going to try to build up. We're going to try to build up all the sort of chat there, and make it quite a friendly place. So go and join Discord. I'll be on there at some point when I get a bit more time. Perno does have a tattoo of GingerGM on his bottom, and maybe we will get a picture of that at some point. Where are the games? That's a good question. Where are the games? Well, let's have a look. So we're going to now dive in to Magnus Carlsen versus Anishkay, because I think this is really the match I'm certainly most interested in, because they have a lot of aggro, a lot of sort of funny banter, but rivalry, I'd say, over Twitter. And Magnus has the advantage of the white pieces. And they do start off now with the Queen's Gambit. And now the Rogozing variation, which is one of the sharpest lines. And now Bishop F4, Knight to E4, pressurizing C3, Rook C1, guarding that one, Knight C6. So Aneesh normally very well prepared. E3, and now G5. So Aneesh is playing super aggressive today. He really is coming out swinging against Magnus, which is great to see. Bishop G3, H5, aiming to trap the bishop. So Magnus has to stop that one, and he plays H4. But now Geary can do a lot of damage to Magnus's pawn structure by taking on G3. And after pawn takes H4, Bishop B5 played. And this is getting really sharp already. And the current position, Queen D6 from Aneesh, threatening to come into this square with check towards the king. So one more move on the board, and it is pawn takes H4. So the board not moving. Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. So for some reason, you can't see the moves. Great stuff. I am sharing screens at the moment, but we can try again. Let's have a look. So bear with me, people. And okay, so well, we were testing out your blindfold chess there. For some reason, the screen is not sharing. So we're just seeing if you could follow it blindfold. How many of you followed that? That would have been, if you did, you definitely allowed a free DVD. Okay, so we're going to try this again. Let's see if we can get this working now. And like we say, there have been some little technical issues today. Can you see the board now? Let me know, producer, if that is possible. It's nice to see the board. Good solid start today. I see. Okay, let's try that again. Share screen. Well, this is the one. How about that? Yep. Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah. So there might be a bit of echo. Yeah. So there might be a bit of echo. Okay. We're just getting things sorted out. Everything will be back to normal soon. It's probably important you can see the moves though. I would imagine. So Aldo, hello in the chat as well. So good friend of ours, Aldo. So Blair, can you see the board?
I can see the board. I'm looking at your Twitch channel as well, and the board is now up on your Twitch channel.
It is.
But unfortunately, or fortunately, they cannot see either of us, which is probably a blessing in disguise, let's be honest.
Well, now actually they can see us, but you're called Simon and I'm called Blair, which is even more worrying. When did I turn into Blair? And you turned into me. So is that a good thing? Would you like to be me for a day?
I'd love to be. I'd love to have your chess ability, but sadly, I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Oh, you're a very talented player. I mean, Blair doesn't play much, but he's easily FM strength Very good researcher. Just doesn't play a lot. I think it'd be quite interesting to be you for a day as well, Blair. It could be. Have your brilliant mathematical mind. So you are. You're
Careful what you wish for.
Careful what you wish for.
Anyway, is there any way we can change this around? Because I do think that people tuning in, I don't wish to be necessarily confused with you.
Well, there we go. It's changed. I'm sure our producer will get there, but now everything seems to be working okay. So anyway, what do we think of this position, Blair? So now Queen G3 has been played, and Magnus has to move his king already. And this is quite crazy. I'm just going to try to get the swing bar ready. So now, hopefully, everything's ready. You can see the bar here, which evaluates the position on the side. We're not going to use a computer to analyze with if we can. I think Alex Warren's in the chat as well. Hello, Alex. Hope you're doing well. And everything's going good in Farnham. The Narm. Rook G8 played, and Aneesh is threatening to take on G2. Is he just going to checkmate Magnus, Blair? Is that what's going to happen here?
I don't know, but am I right in saying that didn't they play a similar opening in the Magnus Invitation or something, where it started off on the same line? I think there was the only game that Geary won in their mini match.
We've just been told that the board has frozen again. So the pieces, for somehow they're not moving. So well, this is a good test. I can tell you, Queen G3 check has been played, King F1, Rook G8. But we'll have to see with our producer if we can get the board unfrozen. We're not seeing the games. Okay, I'm going to try to update it. No, interesting, eh? I wonder why that's not working. So
we've got a distinct advantage onto the viewers that we can actually see the live position and they can't, which is like makes life a bit easier for us, doesn't it?
Yeah. Shocking, I'm off for a pint. I don't blame you. We can't actually have a pint in England because the pubs are closed, but they will be open next week. And at this rate, I've got a feeling I'm going to need a couple very soon. So, well, let's have a look if we can see another board. I'm going to flick to another board, just see if that comes up, for example. So MVL versus Nakamura, will that come up? We'll get this sorted. We will get this sorted very soon. Just bear with us. It's a little problem. We're trying to get the video thing sorted. As soon as it's changed, it'll be all right. No, you can't see that. Blair, you can see the screen I'm seeing, can't you?
I can see the Vasil-Lagrave Nakamura game. But I can also see on Twitch it's not updating, and so I've got the live feed.
No. Okay, so
don't be too harsh on yourself. It's the first day you've done it, isn't it? So
yeah, I mean, it's not like I've ever done any commentary before or any setting up. It's the first ever bit of Twitch streaming I've done. So you have to bear with me. Should we just go? Have you got any of that red wine left, Blair? Can I have a look? Let's see how much red wine bottle you got there. Have you got any left? Should I just come over?
Left.
Oh, I was going to suggest I come over and just have a glass of red wine, but
I've got some reserves in the cellar.
You got some reserves. Okay. Well, at least the camera's good today. Yeah. Sorry. I'm gonna let's try this again. And now we're gonna share this screen here. And I hope it seems to work this, except when I try to make a move. So let's see if I can make a move now. And I'm going to now move the rook. Can you see me? Can you see me moving the rook, people? Rook h6. Can we see that? You can. Can we see that? You can. You can see me moving the rook. So that actually works. I wonder why that was. Yes, the echo will go. Yes, the echo will go. The echo's going to go. Okay, now what if I switch back to Magnus Carlsen's game? Rook g8. Can we see that? This is the ultimate test. Can you see the Magnus Carlsen game? You can. Could this be working? Oh, wow. It could be working, Blair. We could be in, I think. So it works. Wow. We actually have the technology working. We're going to, hopefully we can get the cameras back up. So that'll be working soon as well. And
well, I don't think it's any hardship if mine is left off. So
we'll get your camera back on soon. Don't worry about that. So now in this position, Blair, you probably prefer out the camera because then you can get back to the wine guzzling. You can guzzle wine on the stream, Blair. Don't worry about that. So after rook g1, let's just have a look at the position and let's try to update on what's happening. So the time situation, they're both pretty even on time. And it does look just, I don't know if it's superficially, but in some ways it looks good for black, right? Because white can't castle, white's moved his king, and black has this pressure against g2. So that would be the first fault. But obviously Magnus has an idea what he's doing. It's only move 15, which should still be in preparation. And where does black put his king? Because black can try castling queenside here. But if he does castle queenside, he's going to be walking into attack as well. So this is, I think, a very unbalanced position. And also there is a threat, I think, of knight takes d5. So this is something really to worry about, that knight coming in. And another problem could be that c6 knight is in a lot of pressure. So in some ways, I quite like Magnus's position. Even knight e5, increasing the pressure on c6, looks like a good idea. What do you think about this position, Blair? Any thoughts?
Well, visually, it looks very good for black, doesn't it? Well, as I said, I seem to recall they played a similar line in the game before, where I think Aneesh won the game actually. So I think Magnus probably changed it a little bit, or maybe Aneesh changed it. I think he in the previous game he took on c3 this knight in the opening as opposed to going, and then he went g5. So he's got this g5. They sort of played this g5. You must love this though. G5, h5. All in.
Let's go back. I mean, this is right in the opening. G5, bishop g3, h5. I mean, this is kind of crazy stuff, right? Thank you for the subscription, Paul. Obviously, subscribing to our technical knowledge and the smoothness of the stream. Thank you very much for that. It's people, you pay for the luxury of our camera quality and our production quality. It's nice. It's nice to have that. And yeah, I mean, the thing is, I've played this position a lot with white, and I would never push my G and H pawns as black in this position, Blair, because even when I'm attacking, I like to attack with a little bit of king safety. And in this position here, my king, I'm very worried about. I'm not really, the white king nearly always gets safe. Now, we do have monkey chess, Ruland, in the chat. Do you remember Ruland? You forced him to, what did you force him to drink, Blair, when he came down to film?
I think he had to drink Advocaat just to remind him of his homeland.
And did he, okay, so Ruland, Dutch Grandmaster, lovely guy, came over to film for GingerGM. And when Ruland was over, Blair led him astray, and Blair forced him to drink. Was it Advocaat and a raw egg? Was that right?
No, it's just raw egg. Absolutely, you had to sort of dispel. Well, that's Advocaat's made with egg yolks as well. So I just sort of turbocharged his egg yolk, basically. But it's the thing. It's a very Dutch Christmassy drink. For those who don't know, it's the sort of yellowy, thick. It's really not very pleasant, I'll be honest.
Yeah. And in this position, Ruland's suggesting instead of g takes h4, I want to keep up with the games as well. He's suggesting maybe castles, which does look like an interesting possibility here. Just giving up that pawn and trying to get some very quick attack with knight e5, and the evaluation bar likes this as well. For example, if the queen comes into this square, maybe just knight takes d5. It is going to be very strong. Maybe black can try some weird move like h3. If you take it, of course, I come in. But it's a very complex position. And let's just keep up with the game now. So if we move on with the game, bishop d7 is where we do stand. And the time, again, they're both on 5 minutes. Is Aneesh going to get castled? If he can get castled, I will start to like his position. Aneesh needs a couple of moves here, like castling queenside, and then bringing the rook maybe to g4 to g8, that kind of thing. So what do we think, Blair? Now,
I think you can guess what I'd play. I think you can guess what I'd play as white here.
I can guess what you'd play. Now, Aldo is in the chat as well. Aldo, what would Blair play as white in this position?
It's the only move, isn't it? I think.
What would Blair play in this position? The only move. I mean, Blair loves the ending, don't you, Blair? You love exchanging queens, even though you're writing this dynamic course on e4, e5. I can't, a couple of people know you, Blair. Mikhail Smyslov and Merry Hatman are both saying Queen E1. Do you know these guys? I mean, Merry Hatman.
Well, I've obviously know Merry Hatman, and hi to Mr. Smyslov as well. But it's without a doubt the best move, isn't it?
I'm.
Do you
I
not
mean,
think chess is, I mean, we're not all as talented as you, Simon. Do you not think chess is a very incredibly complicated game? And to make it easier, getting sort of the queens off makes life a little bit easier on the brain, doesn't it?
it does, but it makes it a bit less fun, right? I mean, obviously, exchange of queens is all right, and it's not probably a terrible move, but you exchange queens. I think generally, if your king is in more danger than your opponents, that's what I think, because the queen's a very important attacking piece. So I'd be thinking which king in this position is in more danger, and that's the first question. Which king do you think is in more danger? Is it the white king because of the G file, or is it the black king because it has to maybe castle queenside, it can get attacked over there? I'd say the black king's in a bit more danger here. What do you reckon?
Visually, it seems to me that white's king, but both sides seem that they're going to get a bit of king safety if black castles queenside. I wonder if is the e5 square really important in this position for like white's knight? Is that sort of white's idea?
Maybe e5 is the idea. I would have thought
Take
another
on c6 first. I meant obviously maybe, but
yeah, sure. Taking here and then getting hold of the E5 square looks like quite a sensible idea, but the computer says no. And maybe this one, Blair. Ooh,
oh dear.
ooh. Patson sees a check. I'd expected you to see that one.
No, it's just it didn't take me long to blunder, did it?
It's not. You can fight on, but it's quite a hidden check though, isn't it? Because that bishop kind of came from nowhere. Haspario, thank you for the Cheerio there. All Cheerios and donations we receive today will go on the beer fund next week when I meet Blair. Does that sound like a good plan, Blair?
Sounds like a great plan. But I understand that you've not been drinking. Is that correct? You've been abstinent or something like this, whatever the word is.
Yeah, I've been rehabbing. Well, just not drinking. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think now. I mean, if I can last until the end of the month, which is not that far off, I've probably done nearly a month with not a drop of alcohol, which is probably the most I've abstained from alcohol since the age of like 14. so yeah, it was quite weird, Blair. So that's why I'm really looking forward to having a bit of a party when the pub's open. How about you? I mean, you've got a glass of red wine, so it's a bit of a silly question. But have you been well behaved?
Yeah, I'll be very well behaved. Just take it easily. Just take it easy at the moment, Watching a bit of chess, good stuff. Anyway, talk me through it. What is White's actual plan in this position? Because I've got to be honest, I don't really understand this game at all. I know that's not very helpful, but that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, I mean, I to be honest, I mean, it's a really confusing game. White's done the strange thing where he's weakened his position, but I think he's going for active piece play, as in he wants to try and get this pressure on the C line. He's maybe saying the black king is actually just as bad, probably weaker than the white king. The white king might be very safe here. And I think now he could even be playing your plan. I mean, knight e5 could be an option,
was
right?
Queen d6 prophylaxis against White's threat of Queen e1?
Let's have a look at that. So in this position, yeah, Geary was so scared of Queen e1 aiming to swap queens, he dodged the bullet by moving the queen to d6, saying, no, Magnus, you're not doing a Blair Connell on me. I've heard of that Blair Connell. He's a famous endgame player. I'm going to move my queen back and avoid the exchange of queens. It might be, but actually, it's funny you said this 95. You picked the right plan. You're playing like Magnus, but slightly worse version, but still like Magnus. Knight e5 is being played. And
I guess it's really important now the queen has got out of the g3 square. So obviously bishop b5 check is probably just a check, isn't it? The queen's now blocked out, isn't it?
I mean, it's still quite a tempting check because if you put your king on f2, you always have to watch out for queen g3, and maybe I can go f6, but there's a queen h5 check, and then we see the black king is a much bigger target on that square. So I'm guessing this doesn't help too much. I mean, it's just a weird position. I really don't know how to evaluate this. I don't know. I mean, I would probably rather be white here. But let's have a look. Well, bishop b5 was played, and now Magnus actually went to e1, and Geary gets castling. I was going to say I'd rather be white unless Geary gets his king safe, because if Aneesh can get his king very safe, then he's got f6 coming up, and this is actually a really powerful move. f6 kicking that knight away, and if the knight moves, then the floodgates open. The e file opens, the queen opens. So in some way, I mean, look at this, king d2. Is Magnus trolling? Is he actually just trolling? Or what's he doing? What's he up to? This can't be normal, surely.
I'm not really sure. Where is he riding his king to? Because even if it makes you one, it's still vulnerable to the bishop at some point, isn't it?
Well, I think so. I mean, maybe he's going to try to just get it all the way to A1, yeah? Is that possible? What do you reckon? I guess he's going to try to just run it all the way to the corner.
Okay, what about, I mean, I don't know if you look at the position at the moment. What about Queen F6 here? That seems to sort of attempt to come into F2, maybe attack H4. Nothing too sophisticated, but
trying to pick up a pawn, and well, the computer, look at the computer. The computer here basically thinks that black is on the verge of winning if he plays Queen F6. So nice spot. Did he play it? Let's have a look. Oh, he hasn't played it. Why are you playing better than Geary? Okay, Geary's played another move, which is
in
also.
fairness, I would have lost. In fairness, I'd have lost this game already, wouldn't I, by going 95 and basically nearly getting checkmated on my king at F1. So I don't think I'd even be in this position to survive. But
no, quite possibly. But I mean, this, to be honest, this actually looks horrible for Magnus. I was saying earlier on, I think his position's okay if Geary can't get his king safe. But now, because black's king is really looking very safe, you can't do anything on C7. It's very well defended by the queen. And as we mentioned before, as soon as black plays F6, white's position could even crumble. Let's say you go king to this. Okay, so Magnus has grabbed a pawn. And I think this is a good strategy. A strategy that I would do is, like, if you've got a bad position anyway, you might as well grab as much material as you can. And I think Magnus is in serious trouble here, actually. I mean, maybe F6 here, something like that. Is that possible?
what's the idea of that? Just to get rid of the knight so you can, did you say the floodgates can open? Is that your plan?
Yeah, I'm trying to get through to E3 and just try to, keep the king in the center of the board by playing F6. And this knight looks very strong to me. So my first thought would be to do that. So let's have a look. I'm going to go F6 because if you have to move your knight away, I mean, that's your one good piece. If white can keep that knight on that square, it's okay. I'm going to get rid of that square, that knight.
I think he's played it, hasn't he?
He's played it. This has actually happened. F6 has occurred. It has occurred in the position. F6 played. And now, where can you move the knight? I mean, let's say I move the knight back to F3. I mean, it's probably as good square as any, yeah? Because if you go this way, there could also be problems at some point with a G3 square hitting that one. Maybe I'd come in with queen to G3 is one idea. Could be a better move there.
Even queen H2, maybe. Is that possible?
Queen H2. And that hits the rook as well, and G2. This would be crushing. I think Magnus is in serious trouble. So let's go to F3, because it's a little bit more stable in the square. But now you could just play your king over. Nothing wrong with that. You could also come in with queen G3 here. Anyway, I mean, I like queen G3.
Isn't there sorry, Simon, isn't there a phrase in chess that all the best players play king B1 or king B8? Is that true?
For some reason, that does ring a bell. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a... They do. In these positions where they castle queenside, they just put the king there without thinking. I haven't heard that saying. Is that a Blair saying? Or is that something?
I'm not that bright to have come up with it. But what's the logic behind it?
I suppose it's just that, on this square here, the king's always going to avoid a check when the white queen swings over, not to that square, obviously, but to F5 is quite a nice square for the queen, a bit more centralized. And there's loads of little tactical moments later on where you just want to avoid a check. Your king's safe there. It's going to go to A7. It's a lovely square for the king. But I'm happy the way Geary's played it, because he could have played that. But he has played the more aggressive move, which is great. He's gone in with queen to G3. And now, see, this is the thing. Queen F5 check. Magnus has utilized that check. Maybe to now... Oh, he's going for it. He's going for your plan, Blair. He's finally hit upon the right plan. Queen F4. You could have done this ages ago. He's desperately trying to swap queens off.
It doesn't get the queens off, does it? I think the queen's coming in, isn't it? This looks dreadful. I'm no expert. This looks dreadful.
It looks absolutely dreadful. Like, okay, let's give a check. I mean, the white king is really, really bad. And look at the time. Magnus has got 42 seconds against Aneesh's 2 minutes, which is really bad. And now king C1 in the position. And I mean, okay, there's one idea. Queen takes C7 check here, which is something you could play a passive move to defend, but it's only a check. So could you even come in with This one, rook takes e3. I don't care about the check because my king's just coming to a8. And with this rook coming into this square, I mean, look at that white king. I think Magnus is going to lose this one. Can he survive? Will Geary swap queens? Don't swap queens because let's have a look. If he swaps queens, I'm going to be so disappointed. I mean, in here, he could go queen takes queen and then go rook e2 and try to get some ending advantage. But he is a pawn down. He can't go for this, surely. I mean, this is a little bit better for him, maybe. But if I really hope he doesn't swap queens. What would you do, Blair? Would you just whip the queens off? Or would you,
yeah. I know it's not the most exciting. It's possibly not objectively best, but it's a very straightforward way to play, isn't it? And it's just, surely it's just he doesn't really need to calculate if he does that, does he?
Mr. Queen Swapper. So you know what, Blair? Even if it was checkmate in 5 moves, or you had a queen exchange, and you could win in 100 moves, you'd probably go for the queen exchange, wouldn't you, Blair?
That's no brainer.
No brainer. We get. I mean, I think. I mean, maybe queen takes.
I'll tell you what. I'll take our little. I'll take it on the promise that we might end up meeting for a beer. I think he's going to play queen takes f4.
Oh my words. Okay. Well, he's got. He's gone in. He's gone in. I know, but he's going queen takes e3 now. What's he doing? I don't like this move. Oh, Aneesh, I'm so disappointed. He swapped the queens off. Don't swap the queens off. I mean, there's a rule. If your opponent's king is in more danger than your king, and the black king's really not in danger. I mean, let's say I go rook takes e3. I'm threatening rook takes f3. Okay, you've got a check. Well done. I'll just go king a8 or something. I'm not worried. My king is really safe here. I'm threatening rook takes here. My bishop's coming in to stop your king escaping. My rook's coming in. This is game over. Why is he going into an ending against Magnus Carlsen?
I think the people in the chat, someone's pointed out in the chat, I think it's Elf Hatter Forever, suggested that he's achieved his objective of getting a draw, which is quite. I think the old jokes come about again, don't they?
Oh, nice. You know what?
It's a bit unfair on him, isn't it? But
it's really unfair on Anish. We did sort of agree the other day there was going to be no more draw jokes for Anish, but you know it is that we have to do a little bit of a joke here. You know, Anish sees checkmate in 5 moves, or he can grovel a draw in 50 moves, and of course he grovels a draw in 50 moves. I mean, come on, Anish. Let's have a look. I mean, he's probably, is he better here even? I don't even know if he's better because this H pawn's good. Why should black even be better here? I mean, you got rook g4, okay. So, but now rook take. This is just going to be swapsies, I think. I really don't.
I think we're so disappointed with the outcome of this. Should we look at another game? Is that possible?
Yeah, we have to look at another game. This has really been disappointing. Really has. I mean, can we just go back to that point? Anisha's going to be kicking himself, and I don't understand why he did it. He picked the right decision here. He had a long think about it, and he went queen f2, and now he sort of said, "Oh no, Magnus has a check. Ooh, he's got a big check," and he suddenly swaps off queens. You just go rook takes, keep the queens on the board, or something like that. I'm sure this is winning for black, right? Okay. So I think we will just one more look at the current position. This is the current position. Probably going to be a draw. The pass pawn is not very mobile. I can't see Magnus winning this, but you never know. Even if this pawn is lost, it's probably still a theoretical draw. So I expect a draw. Yeah, let's go on. Okay, Wesley So versus Rajabov. And what do you think of... Okay, Blair, I'm going to ask you some questions now. Who is your favourite chess player of the people left? Who is your, like, chess playing wise? What style do you like the best?
Well, I'm just wondering, why don't you answer the question first, so I can sort of maybe copy you, just to sound intelligent.
No, just you're not allowed to do that. I mean, you gotta, you know, we want to hear your opinion. Okay, I'm gonna go. My favourite player chess-wise is Magnus Carlsen. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Maybe second is like even Rajabov or MVL. I mean, I like them all for different reasons, but I like their aggressive play with black. I like the way Maxime goes to the win in the Najdorf, the way Rajabov in this game with the black pieces, as we can see, really sharp position, and he always goes for a big attack. Rajabov, he's really a born hacker. He's really a born hacker. So I like
what's Rajabov's history? In case he's probably one of the lesser known people. You know, we've obviously, if people have been following things recently, obviously we see a lot of Carlsen, Nakamura, we see a lot of Geary, Legrave, etc. But I wonder what's sort of Rajabov's history.
Well, he was born in a forest, I believe, raised by wolves, and shown the game of chess at the age of 6. And this saved him from his life in the wilderness, and he got adopted, just like. And apparently, the Queen's Gambit was based on his life story. Is that right? Is that what you wanted to hear?
That sounds about right, I think. But I assume that's an Azerbaijani flag, so I assume he's in Azeri. Is that right, or am I treading on dangerous ground here?
He is, yeah. He's a famous famous Azerbaijani. He's a chess prodigy. So Rajabov actually beat Garry Kasparov when he was, I think, 12 years old, maybe 12 years old. He beat Garry Kasparov, and he was one of the prodigies at that time. And lovely move he's just played, by the way. Rook G8. He's put his rook on a. Is that legal? Look at that move. Can we just look at that move, Blair? In this position, he's clearly got an attack, but he plays Rook G8, where that rook can be captured for free. I mean, it looks like. I mean, this could be quite a big upset. Wesley So is definitely favourite against Rajabov, but Rajabov's this talented hacker, and he did get a place in the candidates, which he turned down because of COVID. Proved to be right. So he's been a bit hard done by. Hence why I would like to see him do well. But what do you think of this move, Rook G8? What a move! What a bloody move!
It's an incredible move, isn't it? I mean, incredible. I think the 2 games we looked at so far, it's all been about king safety or the absolute lack of, hasn't it?
Definitely. Great chess. I mean, the point of this move, which is fantastic, if you take this rook, then I'm guessing we just go queen takes f5, and our queen is coming in for the kill. And this has happened. This has happened in the game. We have knight takes g8, queen takes f5. Okay, don't go back to it here. Quite a crazy position. But how do you stop queen h3 with what should be a checkmate attack? I'm not sure how. Is checkmate? How is it going to be checkmate? What is happening? I mean, queen g4? What if I play queen g4 here? I'm doing a Blair. I want to get... Okay. Oh, he's gone queen d1. So it is black's move. So in this position, white can't get his queen to defend h3. So he's gone queen d1. And now queen h3 checks happen. King g1. Is there a knockout? King f8. What a move. King f8. Attacking the rook here. And the rook has no squares to move to. If you go rook g3, queen takes g3 check. This is fan-bloody-tastic. What about, I mean, this is a brilliant game, right? Absolutely brilliant.
Rook G8. I think people were saying in the chat, what an amazing move. And it's just, I find, when I see people play moves like this, and he's obviously calculated it, but he's got 26 seconds on his clock, and he's sacrificed an exchange, and then he's followed it up with a subsequent king f8. It's just remarkable. How can you possibly see such a move? It's incredible.
No. It is. And what move is this? I have to make a note of this move. This is incredible. Move 40, rook g8. Really amazing. And this king f8 is a lovely touch, right? Because, you're on the onslaught. So you're looking normally at your pieces that are attacking. You're thinking, what can I do with my pieces that are attacking? Instead, you just play king f8. And you're like, right, I'm using my king. Rook g4, the only square to put the rook. Now, what happened in Geary's game? It seems okay. What happened?
I assume they had 3 virtual handshakes.
It must be a draw. And now King f7.
Oh no, he can't be serious. No,
he's seriously playing like a star, right? I mean, he wants to just get his rook in the game, yeah. I mean, unbelievable. And he wants to just play. This is like stunning chess. Look at the time. Look at the time, and he's won. Wesley So has resigned.
What? How can you win a game? King F. Exchange down with your last 2 moves being King F8, King F7. That's unheard of, surely.
Absolutely brilliant game. I mean, I want to just go through those moves again because that was literally such a brilliant game. I mean, let's go back to around here where Rajabov has managed to get one of his messy positions. I think Rajabov's going to be gaining loads of fans, right, Blair? During the course of this, he must be.
I'll tell you what, respect to the people in the chat, they're looking at it and just saying it's unbelievable. And I've got to share their sentiment. I mean, I honestly can't remember a game which forces resignation by King F8 to F7. It's just, have you ever seen anything like it, Simon?
Not with so many pieces on the board. I mean, we got Rook G1, King D7, Rook A1, Queen takes here, and now the Knight comes in, and now Rook G8. And this is the start of an amazing tactical sequence because the rook here, I mean, Rook G7 is coming,
Simon,
right? Rook G7 is coming. It looks like that might be checkmate. So you go Rook G8, and the point of this, after it gets taken somehow, you can now get your queen here. The king comes back to E8. It can't go to C8 because if you go to C8, Rook here is checkmate. So you're really dicing with death. But now queen in is coming. White tries to get his queen over somewhere to defend, but now look at this. And this is the beautiful move Blair was saying. King
Simon,
F8.
there's a couple of people in the chat wondering what happens if Queen G4 in this position. And I don't know if maybe you're the best person equipped to answer that question. I think maybe Queen G4 here, they're wondering what's Black's knockout blow? How does Black do it? Obviously, King F7's taken away from him, which was his plan. So he's got to find something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just go knight E2 is the idea against that. And after knight E2, you have to take the knight. And now the king is going to triumph. You take here. In this position, you're not even material down. And this knight is clearly in trouble. Probably have to try knight E7. But now rook H8, and you're going to get checkmated. The three black pieces work. So there's no checks against Black's king here.
So he basically finds a different way of activating his king, yeah?
Yes. Yeah, he basically, he does. He activates it to G7 this time. The winning maneuver, yeah, King F8. Again, that was just fantastic, right? King F8, and then King G7. I mean, what a move. Rook G4, King F7, White resigns because there's no good way to stop Rook takes G8. That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, Blair. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Simon, I think we're getting a bit of chat feedback that maybe Nakamura's, I think someone's saying he's even lost maybe, which would be quite an upset, wouldn't it? Not the best way to start his quarterfinals.
I think it looked like it was going to be a draw to me. Passport saying Nakamura went down. I'm just trying to get confirmation on that. So we try to, if Lewis can give us a link to maybe the live scores on Chess24. Now, is that either looks like Hogarden or your Rhine that you're drinking, Blair? Please tell me which one it is.
It's the former as opposed to the latter.
Okay, just.
But aren't there supposed to be some sort of restorative properties of drinking one's own urine, as you pointed out? Anyway, we're going slightly off topic.
Well, maybe. I mean, I've tried it for the last month and it hasn't done me any harm, you know? It just makes me look a bit blurry.
I'm speechless, I'll be honest. Absolutely speechless. Anyway, can we see any of the other games? Just maybe, who have we not touched on yet? Sure. We've heard that Nakamura might have lost. Aronian was a quick draw, was it? Or a relatively quick draw?
Well, I think Aneesh versus Magnus Carlsen was probably a draw, but I want to get the list of results. Maybe if anyone, Aldo, can just post a link to the results in the chat, that'd be fantastic. So we're going to try to get that in a second. The only game still going on is Nepo versus Aronian. Aneesh Magnus, I think, was a draw. Aneesh decided to swap queens. Really, really weird. Okay, running game. Sorry,
sorry to interrupt you. I think Nepo might have actually they may have started their next game. I assume that these games don't always start at the same. They don't need to wait around. Is that right?
Okay, so you're right. Okay, so I have just got the right thing. So Carlsen, Geary, round 1. It's 4 games today. Draw. Aronian versus Nepo. Draw. Wesley So lost to Rajabov. And you're right. MVL did beat Hikaru. So that's right. Sorry about that. That was my mistake. So now I can see the games properly. It should be a little bit easier. Yeah. Okay. I mean, what's the weirdest diet fad you've ever done, Blair? Have you ever done a diet? I doubt it. Beer diet, anything like that? Is there such a thing? No. You don't believe in diets.
I believe in. I mean, my body is a temple. I think, as you well know.
I know you look after it.
Temple of Doom, I have to say, probably.
Temple of Doom. Yeah. What's
anyway,
that?
What do we should have gone through. Maybe people in the chat can join in as well. The predictions for these. Who's going to qualify? Not just who's going to win today, but who reckons there are going to be any genuine upsets? Maybe. Is Vasilev beating Nakamura an upset, or is that just entirely unfair to someone as incredibly strong as him?
I mean, the thing is, I don't think any result could be an upset. Maybe except for Magnus Carlsen losing. That's the only thing I could say is an upset. Because I mean, if you if you look at, let's look. I mean, Nepo Aronian. This is the only game of round 2. Either of these guys could win. Yeah, they're fantastic. I mean, Nepo a bit younger than Aronian, and he's sacking his queen here. But we'll come back to that. But I mean, MVL is much higher rated than Hikaru, I think, isn't he? I mean, he's leading the candidates.
Didn't it used to be like the Blitz number 1? It's certainly, but I know appreciate this is more rapid, but
yeah,
I meant over the board, obviously.
I mean, I think in longer time limits, MVL is much higher graded than Hikaru. So if anyone, I'd say Hikaru's maybe the underdog in that match in some respects. And Wesley So, I would say is favourite against Rajabov, and I would say that Magnus Carlsen favourite against Geary. And my thinking, Blair, is that after that first game, Aneesh has lost his chance today, because you got to take, when you get a chance like that against the world champion with black, you got to take it. I mean, Magnus will probably realise that he's losing there if Aneesh had kept the queens on, and that's going to give him a lot of energy in the next round. Maybe Aneesh is going to realise that he was winning and he didn't win. So I think that's going to be an important point in this match so far. I would have thought, but yeah, I mean, what do you think?
There's a danger that Aneesh might suffer from a bit of mental letdown after letting a great opportunity, not just to go 1 point ahead, but again, I know that we're not supposed to go with the old jokes, but if Anish Geary goes 1 point ahead, he's unbeatable, isn't he? Because all he's got to do is make 3 draws.
He's just got to make 3 draws. That's right. I
mean, that's an occasion when actually making 3 draws would be incredibly beneficial, wouldn't it? Because from a game theory point of view, you'd obviously win the match 2.5, 1.5. You don't need to take any risks. Yeah. Make Magnus come at you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree in some ways. I mean, that was why it's a massive game. But I think rather than Aneesh probably won't get too annoyed, because I think he's a bit of a, they're all mentally tough. But maybe it's more going to be a wake-up call for Magnus. I think Magnus is going to think, right, okay, so I really messed that up. And he's really critical, and he's going to be, I have to play better in the next game. And normally when Magnus says that to himself, he plays really well in the next game. That's what I'm thinking might be a bigger thing. So anyway, we are on to this game. They have started a bit prematurely. What do we think is going on here?
Quick question.
Yeah.
Someone goes a point down in a match, even if it's, they say it's a best of 2 and they lose the first game. What should the player's approach be? Because I'm sure I've seen you involved in some sort of mini matches before in your career. And sometimes I think the mindset is, if you need a win, is it right to go after it hard, or should you just sort of try and just play chess and without sort of go gambling too much? What's your opinion?
I think the opinion nowadays, really, especially at this level, is if you need to win a game in a match or even in a tournament against a player, then maybe the best strategy is not to start sacrificing and go crazy, because I mean that is probably going to backfire. I mean, what most people do now is just play very sensible moves and not really change their style, but try to keep the pieces on the board. I mean, I don't know if I fully agree with that. I mean, I think putting out a King's Gambit is a perfectly viable option. When you see people do that in these sort of matches online, the King's Gambit does really well, even though it's supposed to be, and probably is, a bad opening. It's still, practically speaking, is quite dangerous, right? I mean,
I think Pass Pawn's got his punting head on. He just went, right, you've got one down, just gamble, just throw it all in. Just lots of pieces up at the board. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to. You've got to go down like a lion, not like a pussycat. I guess is his idea.
I think it's a good point. And hello to everyone in the chat as well. We've got Pass Pawn, LC Dirt probably, who was here yesterday. Hello LC, Tam Hass, Plo Crux, Fat Pawn. I hope you're talking about the chess there, and not something else. Mikhail Smyslov. Ivanchuk won with it recently. He did indeed. If you're seeing bad camera quality, then stop drinking. You have a problem. It's nothing to do with us at our end. It's to do with your drinking problem, of course. No, I'm really sorry about the camera problem. It's very annoying.
I've actually got it on my phone on 4G, and the cameras look fine on my phone. But so I don't know if it is us. Obviously, if it is, we sincerely apologise.
Yeah. But, you can still see, luckily, the moves and everything. So we're going to have to stick with this until potentially take a break.
Tell us just what's happening in this Aronian game. Has he got any chance at all, Simon? Or what's happening? Is he just gone? Is he just done for?
Well, I mean, I think he's completely done for here. Definitely done for. I mean, it looked like in this position after rook d1, someone I saw mentioned in the chat said he sacrificed his queen. I think the problem he has here is that he doesn't really have a choice, because rook takes d3 is winning a piece. So he's got to, after this move, I think Aronian's got himself in a lot of trouble. He's got to try to get 2 rooks for the queen. So it's not even a sacrifice. But if we go up to date with the current position, it's really pretty horrible for black. Knight and queen, you've got to think what pieces coordinate well together. Knight and queen coordinate incredibly well together. And this bishop is horrendous. This bishop is in a really bad square at the moment, just trapped. And of course, white's got this pawns that he can maybe slowly start pushing up the board. And at some point, I think Aronian's position would just collapse, right? I mean, it looks pretty bad to me, Blair. What do you think?
I think it looks. I mean, that's what I was asking your opinion. I mean, I was actually interested to see how you'd say for white to proceed. But at the moment, black doesn't really have anything at all, does he? He's not threatening anything.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is the black king is so weak, right? So if black ever tries to activate his rooks, which you probably should give a go, like, you know, let's say rook d8, try to get the other rook and do something, especially when I go f4, then, well, okay, your king is just so weak there. And the knight and queen will combine to cause it lots of problems. So maybe if I was white here, I wouldn't be in a rush to go f4, just because it gives maybe black a little bit of play in the second rank. I would try to do everything I can in this position first. So I'd probably go h4, because then my king can sit on h3, so it's defended. Maybe even go a4. I take my time. Queen here, go a5. You know, it's really just losing, I think, for blackness because of those factors.
This has gone.
Right?
I mean, this is. I never quite understand why. I know these are world-class players, but sort of getting into so much trouble with over 10 minutes on your clock, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I mean, I know he's not trying to get into trouble, but you almost feel that, you know, to sort of lose material. Everyone's entitled to make a mistake, I suppose, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, I think the time they do get increment as they go along. By the way, Monkey Chess, obviously, Ruland is saying that you maybe should apologise for him by drinking an avocado drink mixed with 2 eggs as an apology. Isn't that what you forced him to drink on that fateful day?
I appreciate English isn't Roland's first language, but let's not confuse avocados with advocar. They sort of have a similar number of letters, but they're somewhat different, I guess.
I think that's what I
maybe he actually wants me to drink an avocado drink. I don't know. Maybe that's what he actually wants. But
would you drink that on air another day, Blair?
Drink avocado. I don't think we could drink avocado, but
no. What
anyway, is Magnus game started? Come on, let's get back to the real world.
Okay, so one thing Aronian has done, which I like, he's now got his bishop to a much better square, but it's probably too late anyway. Yes, his bishop has improved. It's on this horrible square, but it's still not actually doing much. It's kind of hitting at nothing. And with the last move, white's knight is threatening to come in with a major fork. This is all over. This is all over. So Nepo.
Okay, there seems to be a bit of interest in the Anish, Geary, Magnus, Carlsen game, understandably. Okay, and I guess you know a little bit about this structure, do you?
I do know a little bit about the structure. I mean, this is this opening that we see Magnus Carlsen play here, which he played in the last World Championship match to become world champion by using it against Fabiano. He was playing the Shrezhnikov. Fabiano played Bishop B5 a number of times, like this slow system here, and now G6. And this is basically a reversed English opening with a tempo down. And after D takes, we get this kind of structure. And I can just show that very quickly because I've just done a course of Chessable. It's actually on sale today. So if you want to go and grab yourself a whole repertoire for the white pieces, it's half price. Over at, just search it on Chessable, you'll find it. So this is also what Magnus plays. So you can get this the other way around. You can do it like this: knight c3, something like here, g3, and you get this move. And you can even go e4 here, and after takes, you get the same position in the game, but with an extra tempo. Magnus has played this as well, with quite an interesting idea of going f3, bishop d3. Let's put some moves on the board. F3 is okay. Something like along these lines is one variation. H6 has been played, and oh, not that one because the knight. Get my move on the right. The knight comes to F2, and if black ever castles, there's even this interesting g4 move to try and attack with g5, which I included in the chessable course to try and hit against h6 there. Now back to the game, of course, Magnus is black, and this is why when you're trying to learn certain openings, it's quite good if you can play the same setup in different opening structures. So Magnus has done this with white, but he's also doing it with black, meaning he believes in the setup a lot. He really likes this setup, the English kind of setup, and he's had some great results in it. But after d3, Blair, queen c7 for me is quite a peculiar move, and I think what he's trying to do is he's going to leave this bishop and maybe put it on d6 like we just saw in that last opening. Because remember that what I just showed you, white put his bishop on d3. The normal idea would be bishop g7, and then let's say castles, you go e5 here after the castling move. This is normal, but I think what Magnus is maybe trying to do, he's just waiting with his bishop because it's not particularly good on g7 when there's a pawn there. And he goes e5 now, a4, gaining space. And there's a couple of ways he could play this. I mean, he could still go for that same thing we said. If he goes like f6, it then brings the knight around this way. I think we had a game like this, Blair, online, didn't we? On my YouTube channel. It's probably up there, this kind of stuff. But after a4, he's gone for knight f6, a5, Aneesh trying to gain some space over here, and then very aggressively, knight h5, current position, knight c3. And I think his intention is to probably try to do something on that king side over there, right?
I think someone was asking in the chat. I mean, they described it as theory, but have you ever seen this knight h5 idea before? Is it something you're familiar with?
Certainly, I'm not an expert in this opening with the black side. I mean, I play this colours reversed, but I haven't seen this idea before. But it makes a lot of sense. I mean, the knight is nicely aggressive here, and it's got this chance to come into the f4 square. I don't know if you want to play it straight away because you allow bishop takes and your pawns get funny, but it is certainly one of the more active squares on h5. Even though it's on the edge of the board, this is always a threat that Magnus has. Another thing I have noticed, if you study Magnus Carlsen's games, one thing he really believes in, not, you know, I don't as much, but I'm not as good as him, is the two bishops, right? He really believes in two bishops, Magnus. Have you noticed that? He loves having the bishops.
I'll tell you the other thing I've noticed as well, because I do sort of watch quite a lot of chess, even though I don't necessarily play so much competitive chess. I noticed that Magnus really does dislike positions where they have, you know, what's it called, where the pawns are all on the same files, you know, like mirror image pawns. What's it called exactly? Sorry, but my brain has gone fuzzy here. He just likes it when the pawns get, you know, a bit broken up. So I think if I was playing Magnus, or
do you mean symmetrical pawns? Or
that's exactly what I mean. Thank you.
Okay.
I think the thought's a fine thing to ever play Magnus of someone of my level, but I think he hates things like the exchange Slav and stuff like that. He doesn't like a static pawn structure. I think he, like you're saying, he loves the two bishops, and I think he loves it when there's dynamic possibilities as opposed to a very sort of static sort of pawn structure.
Yeah, I mean, probably have to totally agree with that. I mean, he plays all positions well, obviously being a world champion, but maybe that's just his attitude. Maybe his attitude is he tries to win with black and with white against anyone in the world. And in order to do that, he tries to unbalance it, get kind of unique pawn structures. Maybe that's what he does then, you know, to get in the game like that. Yeah, it's quite an interesting observation, though. Yeah, sorry, Blake. Go on.
A couple of people in the chat were saying something about the Botvinnik structure. What is that? I don't know. Maybe you can help us out for those of us who are unfamiliar with this sort of term.
Okay, well, of course, the Botvinnik system structure is what I've done in this chessable course. It was me filming the videos and preparing it with, I think, one of the best theoreticians I've ever seen, who is Richard Palliser. And the Botvinnik system, again, it's very similar to what Black's got here. And you can do it with white. And the good thing about the Botvinnik, it's safe to start this way. So you start in quite a safe way, but you get, and you can do this against most openings. I'll just flick in another move. You play, first of all, this kind of setup with bishop g2. And then after something like castles here, you play e4. And this is the Botvinnik setup. And you play on the light squares here. You put your knight on e2. But again, this setup, just pawn structure-wise, is kind of identical to what we have in the game here. If you think of it, I don't know if there's a flip board button. Let's see. There you go. You kind of got that Botnik set up, yeah? So you got the pawn here, you got the central pawns, and you get this grip on the center. And another thing I think I could say about Magnus's games, and maybe top players in general, they kind of like having space. And I think Magnus likes having space. And this is one opening you can play with black where you gain that space. But like I've mentioned before, the Botnik, you can buy it chessable, half price at the moment. Go and check it out. We have a question in the chat, Blair. Quartz Chess, who is that guy next to you? Is he even rated?
Overrated, that's for sure.
Overrated. You keep beating me. You are amazing at bullet. If you played more, you'd certainly be a very strong title player. But you don't really play much anymore. You watch more than you play, right? You're more of a.
Definitely watch more than I play. Absolutely. I think my biggest skill is to flag people in equal positions when the queens are off.
Well, that's quite a good skill to have. so is this your game plan? Swap the queens off and flag your opponent.
Flag them all, yeah, absolutely.
Flag them all.
Unfortunately, I don't quite have your skill level, but anyway, well, as this Magnus Carlsen game's developed, are there any other interesting games? Maybe if someone can point us in the right direction of who's playing most interesting. I assume that is the Aronian game all but over. Should we just tie that one off?
Well, it's not. It's looking a bit weird to me because around about here, okay, White's doing very well. And I think one thing I mentioned earlier is you have to be a little bit careful pushing these pawns. You might have to push them to win, but let's not forget, as soon as you push them, your king loses its protection. And I'm a bit worried that at some point, I don't know about this G4 move. Did you have to play this? Maybe you could play, I don't know, knight H2 to G4. But after this move, rook E3, G5, is G5 really working? I mean, H takes G5, H takes G5. Can black just take this one? He has taken it. So if black can take this one, it's pretty bad. What's the idea?
Well, what we had before, it was like he's at least got some chances now, hasn't he? I mean, he looked like he had no counter plays. Bishop was on B6. He was like, king was in a bit weak. I know his king's in the open now, but at least he's got his rooks in the game. He's got some sort of chance now, hasn't he? I thought it was all over, but it isn't, is it?
I mean, there's definitely a chance. I mean, White's still. I mean, rook f6 probably pretty much forced there. I mean, if we go bishop to this square, the real problem is now. Okay, I thought it was queen here check. Is that the problem? What's the problem here with bishop? Maybe queen e8 and now bishop queen c8 is the problem. And we're going to win the whole rook there for free. But after rook f6 as in the game, yeah, I'm not even sure.
Is that fortress coming up here? Like if White takes on here, and then as long as he can get his back, he actually would want his bishop back on b6, wouldn't he? At that point.
Yeah, I mean you can play pawn takes f6 as forced, and now here check, and after here you take this one, and you're right. I think the only way White can win this one is by winning the a pawn and charging his a pawn up the board, which might still be winning, but Aronian has got very good coordination in the center of the board. So this is not straightforward. Can you see any other way White can win this, Blair? Rather than you have to go for the a pawn, right? And then use your a pawn. There's no other way you're going to win. I mean, if you removed these pawns from the board, just take off the a pawns, they could shake hands straight away because black would not do anything. He could just do this forever. He could even lose the c6 pawn, and he just moves the king around like that. He doesn't have to do anything at all to draw. So that is the only possible way that that could be played. But actually, he didn't take on f6. He did not take on f6. He played rook f2. Why did he do that? Why didn't you just take that pawn? I don't understand. I don't understand this game at all. He did not take a pawn. He went rook f2, which is peculiar because that seems like a scary pawn to me. Why did he allow that?
I'm assuming he's not working on the basis that White will miss rook g2 check.
I mean, little cheapos like that, they shouldn't work. And the problem is now White's going to probably pick up the pawn there for free. So I don't like.
That move was very strange. It just seems no.
Yeah, take the pawn.
Maybe he's trying to take the a2 pawn himself. Maybe that's where he sees the problem. But he surely doesn't have time for that. It was mate, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean you can't take on a2. Queen e7 is game over. And if you have to stop queen e7. And when you do, White just takes the a pawn, and I think if White takes the a pawn, he will be winning because I don't see any way to stop this gradual plan of that one coming up the board. So, very surprising game there. It sort of seemed like it was winning, drawing, winning. I don't know, weird. Now, back to this game, Aneesh versus Magnus. We can update very quickly. blitz out the moves. Bishop e7. How's your Hogarden going down, Blair?
It's quite good. I might have to take a 5-minute break just to restock actually in a minute, just to. I'll try and do it at the right time, but I'm sure the people want to hear more from you anyway. So,
Blair, you can take a break whenever you want, mate. I mean, not a problem at all. If you want to go and get a break now, you're gonna restock on the Hogarden.
That's the plan, actually. Maybe if I can point you in the right direction. A couple of people are asking for maybe Radjabov's. The Magnus Carlsen game's just developing, isn't it? I mean, I don't just mean developing pieces. I mean, it's just sort of moving on at a sort of steady pace, isn't it? Yeah. I think people are asking for either the Radjabov game or the Nakamura game. I guess they're the only two ones outstanding anyway, so it'd have to be one of those two. Yeah. Maybe check in with Nakamura. We haven't checked in with him yet, have we? And we didn't do Vachier-Lagrave the credit of winning the first game, I guess.
No. I mean, to finish on this one, like Blair said, pretty normal position. Magnus has got his 2 bishops again, but White's got a better pawn structure. So, okay, so Hikaru is a point down against Maxime, and we got this unique position where Hikaru's trying to do something on f7, so it's getting quite tactical, but at the moment, Black has the extra pawn. So knight b5 just been played. You can all see the last move by the highlight, and there are some maybe tactical issues here for MVL. But yeah, talking about do you normally have red wine and then a Hogarden? I mean, that seems like quite a weird palate change. A nice red wine.
I'm pretty sure they don't advise like grain in the grape, do they? I think that's probably not supposed to be a very good idea. Mixing the drinks.
What do they say about beer and wine? Don't they? Isn't there some saying about it? What is it?
Not that I'm familiar with. Certainly not. And it's certainly I've only heard it on a Friday anyway, to be honest with you. But here we go.
Okay. What is it? What is it saying? Come on, someone.
Simon, look, speaking of drinking, the world-class chess players, and I don't want you to out anyone here, but are there any of these players who are partial, without maybe if you don't out them and name names, are any of these players partial to the odd beverage? Have you shared a beer with any of these guys?
I have shared a beer with. Let me see how many of them I've shared a beer with. Quite interesting. I've shared a beer. I'm just wondering if it's over.
Well, I guess Hikaru, you've definitely had a few beers with, friendly beers down bar.
I've had some incidences with Hikaru before. I don't think Hikaru's a big drinker, but I don't think I've ever shared. Or maybe I shared a beer with him once at Gibraltar, and I mean Magnus doesn't really drink anymore. I don't think, because there was that thing that came out recently. He said he was actually playing in some World Blitz Championships, and he was actually drunk for one of the games, I think he said. So he actually stopped drinking. So I don't think he really drinks much anymore. I think Aneesh not really drink. Aronian, I mean, they're all sensible guys. I mean, they're not like Mikhail Tao's, are they? I mean, Mikhail Tao, he would have his bottle of vodka while he was playing Blitz, right? I mean, there's stories of that when he, he was a real heavy drinker. MVL drinks a bit, but yeah.
Was there a suggestion that Mamedyarov put down a lot of his improvement to stopping drinking, or have I made that up? Like a lot of other things I say.
I mean, I think we can honestly say if you stop drinking, your chess is going to improve, right? I mean, it's not really brain science.
How's that worked out for you?
I haven't played much chess yet. I mean, I've played a couple of games online and my chess is worse. So I think I need to have a couple of beers now and again to relax. I think I play better. There's that magic number, isn't there, Blair? It's like when you play pool, which is
like 12.
Like, well, there is the magic number where a certain amount of beers makes you more confident and you can play better pool or chess, but then over that limit it goes downhill. I don't know, I thought it was like 2 or 3 for a lot of people, but I don't believe that with chess, because chess is all
maybe something that gives you like the Dutch courage to play 1.f5.
Wow, I've always played f5. I mean, that's just a good move. Without f5, I'd be in a lot of trouble. But no, I mean, I don't know. What about you? I mean, it depends on the tournament. I never drink before a FIDE rated game. But when you're over in Ireland, I don't know if Jerry's still here, in some of the fun tournaments, then of course you can have a bit of fun. It's more of a holiday. But
I noticed that, if I may interrupt, Elsie Dirt the chat is suggesting that I should stay on something called the Lucas H Sport, which I have to say, it's never too far away from my no product placement there. Other soft drinks are available, but there's a bit of refreshment there of the non-alcoholic kind. Anyway, I think we should get back to the chess maybe. so I can learn a little bit of something.
Okay, let's do it now.
I think Nakamura looks like he's doing something good, doesn't he?
It does. It does look quite difficult for MVL, this position. I mean, like when I say difficult, is it really bad? I mean, this looks very horrible sort of structure of pieces here, and there is like simple ideas like rookie one, getting that pawn, and then knight d6. So, you know, if white goes here, you put your knight here, you trap the queen. That's one very easy idea, and where did black go wrong? I mean, MVL.
I was going to ask you that exact question, Simon. If you could explain to us where black went wrong, because it suddenly looks like his pieces are so discoordinated. He's got a knight on h5, a queen on e8. It looks, I don't know why he's sort of like they don't. There's no coordination, is there? And they can't really develop his remaining bishop on c8 stuck, his rook on a8 stuck.
I totally agree. I mean, MVL's an expert in the field. So after d5, it's very interesting to see what Hikaru came up with. We played bishop f4, not a main line, and then he went e3, and after takes, he got this pretty normal looking position to me where he's just developed his pieces. It doesn't seem like MVL's done anything wrong now. Next move, you could say, is a little bit weird. I mean, c5 is a normal Grunfeld move. Knight bd7, maybe it's theory. I still think it's okay. And now he goes c5, so he tries to get his counterplay. White simply castles, and maybe here we should try to get these pieces out, because after takes, he allows knight b5. White doesn't have to take back. And now knight h5 seems horrible, because white might want to put the bishop on c7 anyway. I mean, why don't you at least...
Why can't black take on e3 if you can just here? Is it just losing?
Take on e3. I mean, maybe I'll go knight g5. I mean, I got some ideas of doing stuff like here and queen b3. This is very dangerous. Very dangerous.
Does bishop takes f7 not potentially win black's queen, or almost?
Well,
queen, if we get knight c7 in first, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's very dangerous. Let's say you go h6, which is a horrible move. Now we can probably do something like take here, go here, and there's probably a lot of good moves here. I don't know. Let's flick this one in and then come up with queen here. This is a lot of pressure. I mean, I think this move was greedy, but the thing is, you play one bad move as black in the opening, at this level, it can be horrible. But this next move, I don't understand at all, Blair, because why move your knight to a square, encouraging bishop c7? That looks really weird to me. No, it looks very odd.
Well, maybe was he scared of knight c7? Obviously, is that doing a great deal? Was he particularly scared of that possibility?
I think you should be more scared of the bishop coming than the knight. I mean, if the
knight, maybe just is he concerned about the knight coming in? I mean, if we sort of is the knight c7 a big threat, or is it just bishop c7 is a big threat?
Well, let's say you go a6.
Yeah, for example.
Let's have a look. So knight here. If I do go rook b8. There's a nice tactic here. Okay, don't shout it out, Blair. But what is what is white? Okay, white.
I'd have to see it to shout it out. To be honest with you.
White to play and win here. I think white's got. And tell me the whole.
Is there a way of exchanging queens? Because that's normally winning.
Yes, if you can exchange queens, then it's resignations. White to play and win. Anyone? Okay,
I actually can't see it. I'm actually going to look at the chat to see if I can get heads up here, because I can't actually. There's a winning tactic, is there?
There is, but no one's told me the whole line. I think when you're trying to spot a tactic, and if I say a winning tactic, it'd be nice not just to show the first move, because the first move's not really the whole sequence. Try to tell me a couple of moves. So what is the winning sequence?
I'll be honest with you here, Simon. It'd be nice to actually see the first move to be able to say that, but I can't.
Well, no one's told me the whole sequence of moves, so we just wait and see if anyone's got it. And you're okay. Yeah, monkey chess. Well, monkey chess is a grandmaster, so we expect it from the grandmaster. And the winning sequence is knight e6. You have to take this knight. I come in with check. You have to move your king. And now I just simply take your rook, which wouldn't be so bad, except if you take back, because my bishop is so strong, I come in with rook takes c8, which is just game over, right? Completely game over. In the position, so that's the horrible tactic. I mean, let's keep up with the game though, because a lot of things have happened. And after queen here, pawn takes here, bishop h6 was played, and now Hikaru did go for his rookie 1 idea, and he did go for
So rookie 1 threatens knight d6. Is that right? Winning the queen. Is that the idea? Obviously, yeah.
And he's played it. He gets it in the position, so he's winning the queen. But black's going to get a couple of rooks, a bit like in the Aronian game, the Aronian versus Nepo game, where black gets 2 rooks for the queen. So in normal factors, 2 rooks are just as good as the queen. But the problem here is not really the material, it's black's development. So he tries to get out with knight b6, and now Hikaru keeps the pressure up by getting rid of that knight, gaining a tempo, and coming straight in with knight g5. And he's trying to, again, if Hikaru doesn't seize the initiative, then I feel black is going to be fine. So can he use this initiative in a good way? You've got to be a little bit careful of your back rank here. But I mean, can you go knight takes f7, for example? Why can't you just take that one here? And if I go rook takes, then I can even just take this and bring my queen down. Is that good? Or I can try to bring the queen in slowly. I'm thinking like...
Just queen f3, queen b3, good idea here? Queen f3 first, then queen b3?
If I could go queen f3...
sorry, the queen's on c1. I sort of had a momentary lapse in concentration there.
Go get yourself another high garden, eh?
Do you know what? I'm going to take a minute. If I can't see that the queen's on c1 and not d1, I think I need a break. I'm going to see back in 5 minutes. I'll let the people love you.
Then
I'll see you in a minute.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, even here, I mean, like, I'm thinking even if you play something like queen h6, maybe you're threatening to come into h7, but simple could be good. So can I just simply take this one, bring my queen in here, check? And how bad is this? I mean, black is material up, but all of black's pieces are very, very bad in this position. So it might not be that bad. So, okay, so rook e7 has been played, and now Hikaru can maybe consider taking on f7, and we might see this variation. But I do want to go back to Geary versus Carlsen, because things have kind of changed a little bit here. And we go through the moves. The position looked fairly even. And Geary is sort of pushing a little bit now on the king side, and Magnus is pushing on the queen side. Magnus obviously listening to Blair and trying to get the queens off the board. Looks like Blair's got a very old chair there, hasn't he? He's got a really old chair. How old is that chair? I mean, look at it. The chair is literally falling apart. I think we should try to get him a new chair, don't you? I mean, look at that chair. He's probably had that chair for at least 20 years, right? I mean, look at it. It looks horrendous. So, okay. And the game now goes on. Queen here, knight to f3. And now, for his credit, Aneesh is going for a little bit of attack. Magnus doesn't want to part with his 2 bishops. And now he comes in with queen h4. And he's getting a little bit of threat up, trying to take on h7, for example, in this position. And if Magnus has to play, well, you don't want to play bishop takes at g5, because after I take it with my bishop is going to come to f6, and the dart squares, I'm just going to checkmate you on the dart squares. Hey, Andy is Yoda. I am Mr. Fuzzy today. A bit too fuzzy. We'll try to fix this. It will get better as the days go on, but unfortunately that's the way it goes sometimes with the internet. I've got a really good camera, which I spent loads of money on, and you can't even see that. It's kind of like, why did I spend all that money on the camera if it doesn't work? But it doesn't matter. We can still see the boards. And as long, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it. I did it to hide the wrinkles. I don't want you seeing all the you know, horrible stuff going on my face. At least you can see the chessboard. But yeah, bishop g5 played, and if this is it, sorry, it's not been played. If this position occurs on the board, I think white is simply winning, coming in with the pieces over here. So what does Magnus do then? So going back after queen h4. The only other idea, he's got to play h5, I think. He can't do anything else. He's got to play h5. And if he plays h5, can we now play a bit silly with h3 and g4? Is that possible? Hating on Blair's chair. I'll buy him a new chair. We've got a nice chair here, haven't we, Charlie? We've got a chair that you never use. Maybe Blair wants that chair. Should we offer him? It's not your chair, is it? It's not your chair. Okay, if you go, by the way, going back, if you go, maybe queen g7 is also possible. That's also maybe a playable move. I mean, I can now take here and I would have thought that Magnus might want to avoid this, because in this line I'm attacking your queen, right? Maybe queen g7 is playable. I'm not sure if h5. Maybe this is what Magnus is thinking about, right? Oh, he has gone queen g7. So well done to whoever suggested queen g7 chess press. Well done. Hello, Duff, who's come along. What have you missed? Well, quick recap: 4 rounds today. In the first round, Rajabov played a brilliant game and beat Wesley So, and MVL also played well, beating Hikaru. In the second round, 4 rounds today. In the second round, Nepo has beaten Aronian, so Nepo is up against Aronian, and it looks to me like this game is getting nearer and nearer to a draw, with potentially Geary going queen h4 and a draw will occur. Will Geary try to win this position? It'd be very brave if he tries to win this position, because you're about to lose your queenside pawns over here. I mean, you could go all in maybe with something like this, but I don't believe it. Queen takes c2 and try something here. But no, he's not going to do that. There's no point risking everything in a position. I think he'll go queen h4, queen g7, and a draw is probably likely there. Do you want another chair, Blair? I've got a spare chair here. Or do you like your chair?
I quite like my chair. It's seen better days, but, you know, it's comfortable.
How long have you had your chair?
Many a year now.
How old are you?
Don't ask questions like that, surely.
Have you had that chair since you were born?
About, it's probably a similar amount. It's probably the longest you've been without drinking, isn't it, since you were born? So, without not drinking, I guess.
Well,
anyway, I went away and had my eyes tested, and I've worked out that queen c1 to f3 is indeed an illegal move. So,
well done, well done. So you thought you'd have another beer to sharpen up that bit?
Absolutely. I was just my one. I was looking at the some of the odds for these matches beforehand. I noticed that Geary was over 3-1 to get a 2-all draw with Magnus. I thought that was quite. I thought that was maybe they're very keen. They really do rate Magnus very highly. I understand why, but Geary's got some good scores against him, I think.
And odds wise, do you mean there is actually gambling available at the moment on the chess?
I don't know if we advertise that, but I think there are some people.
Blair, we can talk about anything on this stream. It's okay. We've been given the all clear to drink, have a laugh. It's not serious, so we can talk about it. If we get in trouble,
I definitely think that there were some good odds. I think they sort of do. I think they slightly underestimated Geary personally.
I mean, so you can actually gamble. It would be 2-all today. What does it have to be 4 draws, or can it be a win and a loss?
It can be any combination to get to 2-all. It could be 2 wins and 2 losses, obviously 2 wins each, clearly. But it'd have to be exactly 2-all. But I think that's quite. I think that sort of underestimates Geary, to be honest with you.
Definitely. I mean, the one thing I found. I mean, I don't really gamble. I don't gamble on chess anymore. But in the past, some of the odds that bookies give, the bookies are quite amateurish. And I think if we got together, Blair, and we had a good little day-to-day running, we could make a packet. I'm sure. I really do, because Blair's actually a very good mathematician. I wasn't joking earlier, an odds person. But, I mean, 3-1's crazy, because Geary's playing so well in the last year online. We had his second on.
Do you want to guess what Geary was to win today's match?
Well, I mean, I think, I don't know. What was he? 5-1, 6-1?
14-1, yeah.
14-1 to win a 2-sided 4-game match. That's crazy. I mean, I think.
Imagine if anyone had done that watching that first game. They would have been really quite disappointed, wouldn't they? Of course.
They would be. Oh, did you put a bet on him?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay, all right. You don't. Yeah, I mean, like, that's crazy. So if you put £10 on, you win like 150 quid if Geary wins this today. I mean, Geary winning today is not the most ridiculous thing in the world. He was leading this tournament the first 2 days. He's played really well over the last year. His second was on the show, Erwin, saying how he's playing the best chess he's ever played. He's improved at rapid. So, I mean, I think Geary could easily. There's no reason why Geary could not win this match. So those odds to me are ridiculous. Absolutely crazy.
They seem a bit big, don't they? I mean, he seems to be really quite well prepared against Magnus as well. I know he's incredibly well prepared anyway. He's probably one of the best people who prepares. He uses his computers very wisely in combination with his skills. But, you know, it does seem to have. I mean, I remember he beat him in the Magnus Invitational, I think, in a best-of-4 match.
He did.
You know, so that was the same sort of the same line that happened in game 1 today.
So did you say? By the way, Geary. I mean, this shows his thing. He could have taken the draw here by just moving his queen back, because the last couple of moves have gone like this, right? queen h4, queen g7, queen g3, queen c3. But now he goes in. He goes to c7. So he's also turning down a draw. So you've got to give him credit. He wants to win this match. Did you say 14-1? You did say 14-1, right?
No, 100%.
So 14-1 is mental.
Someone asked him what Magnus was. Magnus was 3-1 on to win, by the way. I see that people in the chat just confirming it. So it's like 3-1 on Magnus to win, which seems incredibly crazy that if you put £3 down, you'd only potentially win £1. It was about just over 3-1 the draw and 14-1 for Anish Geary to win.
Crazy.
So I thought that was quite. I think they're slightly underestimating Anish, I think, to be honest with you.
Yeah. In fact, by the way, another off track. Thank you. All subscriptions, all support helps this channel. It's going to go. If we do get any donations, it will help me buy Blair some beers for Blair coming on the show today. One of the craziest bets I ever saw. By the way, just an update on the game. This is probably heading to a draw. Well, it should be a draw. If anything, white is slightly better because the pawn structure, right? I mean, black does have double pawns. White is in really no danger here, even against Magnus, because white has no weaknesses. These pawns are nice, but I mean, the only way I can see white winning this is because the c pawn here. If you can ever, and he's played c4 to stop this pawn from moving. That pawn is on a dark square. We have a dark square bishop, so the only pawn that can be attacked is really the c5 pawn. That Geary can go h3, and you can never attack that one. But I don't think it's enough because Magnus is great at the ending, and he has his king going through. But it's still a little bit uncomfortable. I wouldn't be entirely comfortable if I was black here. And one of the craziest bets I saw, Blair, which I think you got on as well, but we can mention it here, was at the London Chess Classic, and Gwaine Jones, who's a tremendous player, don't get me wrong, was due to play against Viswan Anand. And I don't want to be rude to Gwaine Jones, but it was maybe his first big event. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. And Anand has been like world champion. He is better than Gwaine by quite a substantial amount, right? And the odds that for Anand to win, okay, Anand was black, but the odds for Anand to win, they were like 4-1. So if you put £10 down, you get £50 back. I think it was something like that, right? And he's playing like Gwaine. So I'm not being.
I remember he played an incredible game as well. And he won in about 25 moves as well. It's clear. I mean, it's incredible to think the difference between someone like yourself as a grandmaster, 2,500 plus in your time, versus 2,600, 2,700, then getting up to 2,800. It's an incredible difference, isn't it? I mean, these guys are so strong, aren't they?
They are so strong. You've got to remember that. They are just really good. I mean, especially people like Anand, they're another class altogether. But, I mean, you were there. I mean, the odds were crazy. And I think I put, at the time, I don't do this anymore, but I put about £100 down. And within an hour, I'd won like £400 because of this. And the thing was, the way the bookies were doing it, Blair, I mean, by the way, going back to the game, Magnus now is just going for a fortress. So Magnus is probably going to go b4, next move, and he's going to say you can't get in. The only way that white can win this position is if he gets his king in somehow. But there's no entrance point for the king. The white king can't come in this way after b4. There's no way past a3. It won't be able to come in this way because the king... So it is a draw. But, I mean, the way they must have worked out the odds, they must have had some bookmakers, and the bookmakers made one clear mistake, that they looked at all of Gwaine's games from the last 2 years, and they did some odds on that. And then they looked at Anand's games from the last 2 years, and they did some odds on that. But the thing is, Gwaine's playing people like me, and Anand's playing people like Magnus Carlsen. So they didn't take it into consideration who these two were playing. So it was really, really, really peculiar. So, yeah, anyway, that's maybe enough talk about that. But, like,
indeed, absolutely. Maybe, has Nakamura done the job yet? Has he closed this out? I think this Geary game is probably going to be a draw, isn't it?
It's actually now become a draw straight away. So let's have a look. So it did look like Naka was doing very well, but we had the position, just to recap. I mean, maybe somehow MVL's been drawing this. He didn't go for this knight takes here, which I think was very tempting. He went for h3, and now black seems to be getting a little bit of coordination. No, I mean, is it still worse black? Probably, but it's not the end of the world, is it here? I mean, MVL is such a good defender, and I don't know. I mean, this is the current position. By the way, Blair, I do need to have a little break. Are you okay if I leave it here, just chatting about this position? Just chill out, have your co-garden. I won't be gone for long, yeah. So you'll be all right.
I'm sure they'd rather hear from you. Maybe a bit of the chat. We can check out from a bit of chat if they've got. Just before you go, someone was saying about the Geary Carlsen match. If I go back to that concept, that I think it sounded like quite a very wise thing to say, that Carlsen struggles to sort of get openings that Geary doesn't really know. It almost seems to be Geary deciding which openings to play almost.
It does,
yeah. Is that true?
I mean, I think Geary's probably one of the best prepared players in the world, right? So he's hard to play against, and I think he's maybe got a bit more to grips than Magnus had expected with Magnus play. He really understands what to do against Magnus, so it's going to be a very close match. By the way, it is 1-1 there, so that bet of whatever it was is looking very likely. I do need to go to the toilet though, Blair, but I only be like 3 minutes. You'll be all right. You can talk, chat. You can talk, yeah. Just say hello to people in the chat and that, and I won't be gone long, everyone. So, but do need to have a break occasionally. Okay, you'll be all right, Blair. Get your.
I think that's fine. I'll be fine. I think Blue Crow's saying come on MVL, so it looks like there may be looks like MVL may be turning this around. Or something.
Blair.
His position seems to be a lot better. What's that? No, they're asking me to dish the dirt on Simon while he's gone. I mean, I really don't think I can do that. I have seen him on a few occasions play some chess and some not otherwise not as his finest. I think someone was pointing out on his. If anyone follows him on Twitter, you can look him up at GingerGM on Twitter. And someone did a calculation when he plays in the English National League, when it used to be over the board. Unfortunately, on these COVID times, it's stopped. That apparently his play on Saturday was about 100 elo points better than his play on Sunday. So whereas one of his teammates, the fantastic endgame specialist Keith Arkle, was apparently able to keep up his standard overnight. So they deduced from this that Simon's actually not that great at being able to stay in the bar and keep up his standard over the next day. Anyway, if we go back, they're asking, is this great defensive play by MVL? Well, I've got to say, it seems to me that great defensive play. I imagine that Nakamura had some chances to press on his advantage, but it wasn't really clear to me, certainly, what he could do about it. But it seems to me that MVL is absolutely fighting back. And if anything, this could really backfire on Nakamura. If these two rooks come into play, he's now got the open F file, hasn't he? So if the bishop on E2 probably has to stay around defending F3, it almost looks like MVL's taken up the mantle of getting on the front foot. And this could be a massive blow to Hikaru if he, from a position of after losing the first game, to be able to be almost winning from the opening. And I think someone was saying earlier about fantastic preparation by MVL. Forgive me, fantastic preparation by Nakamura in the Grinfeld defense, which MVL's supposed to be a world-class expert at. And then to get that position out the opening, and literally it's sort of gone wrong since then. It's like, as soon as he's thinking on his own, it seems to have backfired a little bit. The knight on D6 is a fantastic piece, defending B7, potentially coming in back into the position if required. It's defended by the rook on D8, so I don't know. This looks like, any ideas? I think this looks pretty. This almost starts to look like I'd rather be black in this situation. I think Hikaru's probably got a bit of a daze at the moment. So any ideas what White's going to do here after H5? I mean, MVL is definitely getting on the front foot, and I think if anything, Nakamura looks like he might be pleased to get a draw out of this. Hikaru is thinking. He's gone into the tank, as they say. And I think he's played, I don't know if we can see the live feed, I think he ends up playing bishop D3. I think I may have slightly advanced thing. And as I suggested, black has gone rook D to F8. And I guess that I was thinking white had to go bishop E2, but he seems to have gone queen C3 check. I think this is going to be a draw. I think this is rook DF8 was incoming, as pointed out by Blue Crow. I think this is starting to look very ropey. And here we go. Nakamura looks like he has accepted that this has gone wrong, and the speed that he's played his moves almost feels to me like he's tilting a little bit. I'm not saying he's throwing it away, but it looks to me that he's this is a big chance that he's let slip. And the same as like Geary. I wonder how his mindset is going to be after this game. Now the question is, how is this H pawn going to be stopped? Yeah, great play by, in fairness, great play by MVL. I mean, this must do his confidence the world of good to be able to turn around this position, staring down the barrel after an opening which he probably knows very well, and somehow he's turned this around. He's going to be absolutely on fire in the next game. I think Nakamura is going to be beside himself. I'd love to see his reaction on stream at the moment, because he's one of the most. He doesn't hide his emotions when things go wrong for him, does he? And this has gone badly wrong. Isn't the H pawn a runner? I guess. How's he going to stop this? Yeah, I suppose he can run his king. Well, how's he going to stop this? I think his king gets back in time, doesn't it? Via F8 and G7 eventually. Unfortunately, does it look like our board has frozen? Maybe I can see the update, but of course Simon's left us, and now we can't see the updated moves. Right, well, Simon, we're back, and MVL has absolutely, basically, he was on the cusp of turning this around.
Thank you for holding the fort.
MVL was on the cusp of turning it around. Unfortunately, he looks like he may have been a bit complacent in the end game, because White's got a pawn on H6 now, and it's looking quite dangerous.
Hello, Blair. How you doing?
Good. But now MVL almost, I'm not sure what's happening now, but MVL turned this around. He almost went on the front foot, and Hikaru must be, honestly, I'd love to see Hikaru's reaction at the moment, because if he doesn't win this game, and I don't know if he can or not, he's now got a past H point if we get up to the current position. And it looks like it might be quite hard to stop, actually.
Right, so okay, so Hikaru does have this big pawn, and one sort of endgame rule. You love the endgame. You're probably everything about this, don't you, Blair? This position is that the H pawn or a rook's pawn is very strong against the knight. So it might still be tricky, right? I mean, how are you going to stop this guy here? Not. Okay, so let's go back to around here, and we will see what happened. And we got into this ending. It looks like we might have a bit of lag on the stream now, unfortunately. Maybe the page needs to be refreshed. Let's see if that works. Yeah, just refresh and it'll be all right. Refresh and all will be good. Obviously, when I come back on, it starts to misbehave. And yeah, I mean, okay. I mean, I suppose Hikaru was relying on the strength of his H pawn here, knowing that this could be good. But now MVL does get another pawn. I suppose it just comes down to, can you stop the H pawn? Let's just go up to the current position. We have this position.
Well, I think the key thing here, isn't it, right, that if the knight can win the pawn on B2, then it's just a draw, full stop, isn't it? Even if it sacrifices for it.
Definitely, yeah. This is a good point, because this is the wrong color queening square. So if you can just get rid of this pawn somehow, then it will certainly be a draw. So this knight E1 is a bit odd. I mean, is he just going to push his D pawn like that and swap things off like that? So you have to probably move your bishop. Let's say you go here and just D4.
And so it's actually White who's going to have to run over to the B pawn and maybe try and get a draw.
Yeah, it could be. It could actually be that. I mean, you go King D5, D3, and, well, it's getting quite dangerous. I mean...
Maybe you should go King D6 in the previous move and just give up all hope of winning.
Yeah, probably safer. Go here, here, and do we take that? Yeah, let's take this. And now, can we get the pawn in time? It's not.
Yeah, we can, because King B6 then to C4, can't we? Well, B4 is very clever.
I like B4. B4, and we're going to take that one. There's no way the knight can defend that pawn in time. I'll tell you what's crazy. From being an incredibly, obviously, as pointed out, the great preparation by Hikaru in a Grunfeld, which Maxime knows incredibly well, but to have such a strong position, and now I think he's taking his time, because it's just the humility he's going to have to show to actually almost make the draw himself. It's not even MVL who's going to make the draw now. It's Hikaru who's going to have to sort of sacrifice his bishop. So then this is a massive result in the context of this match. I totally agree, because let's remember MVL won the first game and he was in real trouble in this game. I mean, around about the position here, even I think
so maybe this knight F7, was this the idea? Yeah.
Well, I think if we go forwards a little bit further, we got here. and Hikaru played this rather slow move. But I think he could take on f7, and then if everything gets exchanged, he might think, okay, black must be doing well because the 3 pieces. But I'm not sure because they're really not coordinating. And if I go like check, where do you put your king? If you come forwards, I mean, I can start taking these guys, right? And I think White's doing very well here because the pieces are just not working. If you ever take here, I've got Queen G8 winning the rook, and I'm probably going to win on G7, and just they're not coordinating. So even though black's material up, I think black is probably losing here. So I think that's the kind of position. If we take Magnus Carlsen would have understood. I don't want to be rude to Hikaru, who's a brilliant player, but he would have understood that even though you're material down in such a position where you take on f7, he would understand that the position here. I don't think black can get his position safe. Well, it has been a draw. A draw has been agreed.
So they play your very clever b4 move. That's a very lovely little way to finish. If
he had that in the end,
White played that.
By the way, I do see that Aldo.
Yeah,
I do see that Aldo did donate. So thank you very much, Aldo, for the donation. And what do you guys reckon? Do we have the evaluation bar on or off? Do you have any preference? We've got it on at the moment, but if you want me to turn it off, then I'm game for that. Can we have a little vote, off or on? Okay, let's see. We've got a couple of off or on. It's going to be about 50-50, isn't it, Blair? I think prefer it off. I like it on.
I've got to say, obviously we're not using computers, and obviously that's a bigger handicap for me than you. Obviously, bearing in mind how much knowledge you have, but having the eval bar on does actually draw attention occasionally to the odds, bad move and good move, doesn't it? And it sort of very much highlights the prospect, but it is sort of tantamount a little bit to using a computer, isn't it? So maybe we should have it. Maybe we should have it off.
It's about 50-50 though. Well, I mean, whatever we're going to do, people are going to be upset, aren't we? So that's the thing. Especially now I brought it up. I'll tell you what we'll do. Next round, we will have it off, and for the last round, we'll have it on. Compromise. What does that sound fair, Blair?
You know what? You can't please all the people all of the time. Anyway, let's move on to another game because is Aronian. I think Aronian is going to be in a bit of trouble today by the looks of it. Nepo's so good, isn't he?
Nepo is really good. I mean, they are starting much quicker than everyone else, and round 3 it has started there. I'm going to have to warn you, Blair, and also producer, that I've just got a message from the studio, and probably I would say in about 10 minutes. So I'm going to have to get off the call, whatever happens. So the question is, Blair, are you happy to take over? Which I know you'll do a great job, but if you're not happy, then can we get someone else on, Lewis String Dog? So we're just wait and see. What are your feelings?
I'm more than happy. I'm more than happy to try and hold the fort. I'm quite sure that I'll get a bit of blowback from some of my poor moves, but obviously the only danger is I don't know if I can control the board. So unfortunately, will I have to comment on a static position indefinitely?
I think you'll be able to control the board. There's a way that Lewis can set it up, so you'll be able to do that. So we'll do that. But I probably have to leave in like 5 to 10 minutes, mate, just because I'll been getting in trouble from rushing over there in the thing. Everyone's saying keep Blair on. People are loving you, Blair. You're the man.
Blair well, why don't we? I'll tell you what. Before you leave us, can you let's put on Wesley So game, because I hear that Wesley So might be fighting back against the player of the day so far, Timur Rajabov, who pulled off that incredible Rook G8 followed by King F8, King F7, a White resigns. And it looks to me, well, we've got the eval bar on, maybe we should take it off because I can even see just from the eval bar the White's doing well here.
Okay, so how do I take a stop engine? Okay, let's see if that works. If I go like Bishop D3, the evaluation bar is now off after me doing that. So that okay, we're going to have no evaluation bar in this game, and that's we'll stick with that. I just want to let you know the scores as well. It's 4 games today, and basically the 4 games, whoever comes out on top after the 4 games basically wins leg 1. If it's a draw after the 4 games, it's a draw. There's no playoff today. And then tomorrow, it's the same again. So if someone wins today and tomorrow, no playoff. But if someone wins today, some of their opponent wins tomorrow, they have a playoff. If it's a draw today, draw tomorrow, playoff. So that's basically how it's working at the moment. There's been 2 draws with Geary Carlsen. Rajabov is 1 up against Wesley So. MVL is 1 up against Hikaru, and Nepo is 1 up against Aronian. So that's where we basically are at the moment. And this position, yeah, you think White's doing well here, yeah? I mean, this is another English opening.
I think the eval bar thinks White's doing well here. Last time I checked, so
yeah, I mean,
I also think White's doing well.
Your valuation.
We removed the eval bar as opposed to getting it stuck on whatever it's on because.
Okay. Oh, look at this. Okay, let's see. I'm going to try. There we go. We'll put it there, and then we'll turn it off again. So everyone should be happy now, yeah? Okay. So we're now. I just want to show the opening because the English is something. Like I say, my course on chessable is on half price at the moment, and I concentrate on the move G3 here. But Knight F3 is still in the realms of the English, and we have a system where White sort of plays this Queen C2. It's like a reverse Sicilian, Knight D5, normal kind of stuff. But now Queen F5 is a little bit unique, and you're trying to do some damage to the Knight on F6. So you're putting a little bit of pressure. Quite a weird maneuver. You don't often see the Queen coming out somewhere like that so early. Maybe, yeah. Aldo's now saying it's slightly better for White. He's complaining the position is slightly better for White, and I'm like. Yes, it's slightly better for White because that's what chess is all about. And we'll go now to the current position, which is not Bishop D3. And I just need to do a little bit of typing to get ready for the studio thing, Blair. So I'll let you say what you think about the position while I do that.
Could you just wind it back just before we do? Just wind it back one move. I know, appreciate you got to go. If you wind it back just 2 moves before Knight F3 for me, after Bishop G6.
Okay. I'm going to go there, but I really just need to.
That's fine. I'll talk about this now. I was just thinking, isn't this a prime? Can we not try an H4 move and then G4, and then just go down that route as well? Because this looks like a. Yeah, I've got a question, Chaya. It's waiting approval.
Okay. Where would that be, the approve thing? Oh, allow. Okay. Now let me just type this first and I'll be able to come back. If you just talk about the position, I'll be able to do it anyway. Just got to do this if that's okay. So you can still.
Okay, so I was just looking at this position and thinking about my co-commentator when Simon met Harry, and I was just thinking, why not play H4? Okay, and then what's the idea? But so they're saying what happens if Black plays H5. I'll be honest, I haven't really thought that through. My obvious plan was to play pawn to G4 and trap the bishop with pawn to H5. But I guess, as it's pointed out in the chat, maybe Black would then respond with pawn to H5, and that would sort of block me off in that intended situation.
Okay, I'm just going to look very quickly at position here, and I'm going to let Blair take back over, and I just need to get this ready for the show. Move 27. Queen takes. Okay, is that going to interfere with the Skype call though? Okay, because that is probably quite important. Okay. Oh, right. Okay, so I'm probably going to step out now, Blair, and leave you to it. I better go. So you've got control of. Is Blair going to have control of my mouse though, or not? Because that wouldn't work.
Simon, could you just put up the position can we just maybe put up the live position in So Rajabov at least? We'll have the live position. We can talk about that.
Okay.
Well, I don't. The pieces.
I can stay a little bit longer because Carson is going on at the moment. Yeah, I'd probably better go. So what we're going to do, I will have to leave the call, and I'll have to let you guys sort this one out. So maybe it's good to go on a little 2-minute break before we do that. Is that worth doing? Okay, so we're back in 2 minutes. Blair's going to take over. It's going to be give him some support. It's the first time he's done this, and I'll be back again as soon as I can. So Blair's doing a great job of keeping everything in check. So go easy on him, and we'll see you again shortly.
Okay. Okay. Well. Okay. I
Simon has had to get called away because he is the man in demand. He has to subscribe to the Magnus theory, and if Magnus and the powers that be want him to contribute, you're going to have to be left with me for a minute. So I thought, going back to the predictions about what's happening in the matches, let's take a quick review about what happened. So the person who qualified in first place plays the person who qualified in eighth place. That was Magnus Carlsen, who came through the all play all with the top score. I can't remember if he did that on tiebreak, but he ended up being seeded one. And it was a crazy situation because Anish Geary, who was actually leading or in second place going into day three, actually only scraped through ultimately on the head-to-head tiebreaks between the four players who were tied on their respective points. And so it turns out that Magnus started off as white against Geary. And if we cast our minds back, Geary had this fantastic position. And I was suggesting that Magnus should have exchanged queens. He may have actually regretted not doing that because Geary busted through and had a wonderful chance of going a point up in the match. It turns out that he lost his opportunity and Magnus was able to secure the draw. So in the second game, it wasn't that quite as exciting as the first game. It did sort of peter out to a draw. So currently, the Magnus Carlsen Anish Geary game stands at 1 point all, going into the third match of the mini round of four. And I have to say, it's one of those occasions when I regret. I don't ever think anyone should ever gamble necessarily, but I do regret not predicting a draw in this match. As it stands, it's 1 point all, and I believe it's fairly closely tied in the current position in match three. So the winner of that game, whoever it will be after tomorrow's second round, will play the winner of Aronian versus Jan Nepomniachtchi. And I do apologise for my pronunciation. I think I've got the sort of Simon bug with that. It's not always the easiest thing to do to pronounce these names. But the first game was drawn, and then Aronian sort of went kind of very badly wrong in the second game. He had some chances, but unfortunately, if we cast our minds back, he missed that opportunity of playing rook takes f6, which may or may not have led to a draw. But as that currently stands, Jan Nepomniachtchi is 1.5 points to Aronian's 0.5 point. And they're also into their third game, which I understand is finally balanced. In the bottom half of the draw, we have the American Filipino Grandmaster Wesley So, who was the victim of what I have to say, and I think that the chat was loving this as well. The absolute game of the day, and I'll tell you what, it's got to be so impressive. Timur Rajabov, who I was asking Simon about, the Azerbaijani Azeri Grandmaster, pulling off what has to be one of the, I mean, this kind of could be the game of the tournament. He managed to play Rook G8, sacrificing an exchange to expose the white king, and went on to win the position as black. Rajabov the righteous, they're saying in the chat, absolutely so. He went on to win the game by black by playing King F8 and then King to F7, which forced effectively a demoralized Wesley So to chuck in the towel. And I honestly don't think, outside of an endgame, anyone has ever played the follow-up moves to an exchange sacrifice of King F8, then King F7, and then it's game over. And Wesley So tried to fight back, but unfortunately Rajabov held him in game two to retain a 1.5 to a 0.5 point lead. And they're going into game three. And I was thinking, just before we went to break, that Wesley So had a very strong position. But I believe by all accounts, it turns out that Rajabov is holding it. And I've got to say, I was going to say, Hardwell saying in the chat, Rajabov deserves to play in the candidates. Now, for those of you who don't know what happened, Rajabov was considerably concerned about the possibility of, as we all are possibly, the coronavirus, the COVID, and he decided it wasn't appropriate for him to play. And a number of people have said that it was a great opportunity for Vachier de Graaf to come into this tournament, a fantastic player who missed out on qualification by every level on. He got so close to qualifying by the various means, by rating, by the tournament performances that he was in, and unfortunately, he wasn't quite able to make it by right. But Rajabov's dropout from the candidates, turns out he knew more than us, because the tournament has been postponed or delayed by COVID. But we will be back with the candidates very soon, by all accounts, assuming nothing changes. Going back to the game, he currently leads Wesley So, courtesy of his incredible performance in the game as black in round one. He currently leads 1.5 points to a half. Now, what many of your favorites, or certainly from an American viewership point of view, Hikaru Nakamura, a rapid and blitz specialist, an online specialist who has beaten almost all the other players in various situations. When he was featuring in the final event of the Magnus Tour, in the Magnus finals, he took Magnus, he would had so many chances to win. He took Magnus all the way down to Armageddon, and just narrowly, if we remember that game, Magnus was able to hold out. He made a fortress with the rook and a bishop, not dissimilar to the game that we saw earlier, where Aronian should have tried to hold in a similar manner against Nepomniachtchi. Currently, that stands Vasily Graf, courtesy of his victory in the first game. I believe we didn't see that game very much, but Nakamura apparently blundered. And so that currently stands at 1.5 half. So looking it through again, all the games except the Magnus game versus Geary have a current outright leader, 1.5 to a half after 2 rounds. Those leaders are Vasily Graf in the bottom half, Timur Rajabov, I would say player of the day in the bottom half, then Nepomniachtchi against Aronian, and currently Geary versus Carlsen is tied. Now, I'd like to ask the chat, who do they think is going to qualify from the various games? Do they think, not just from today, after tomorrow, do they think it's going to be Carlsen or Geary, Aronian or Nepomniachtchi, Wesley So or Rajabov, and is it going to be Vasily Graf or Nakamura? I'd very much like to hear what people have got to say. I've probably got my favourites. I think I'd have to go with Carlsen on balance. But I'll tell you what, Geary certainly, if anything, looks like the better player between the two today. Okay, so we've got a prediction. Tamas is going with Carlsen. I understand that. Nepo, Rajabov, and Nakamura. Well, I'll tell you what, that is some call. That is a bold call. Nakamura is currently 1 point behind in the game today, and I'll tell you what, he's got a lot of catching up to do. So we've got another prediction: Carlsen, Nepo, and another one going for Hikaru. Not a lot of MVL supporters there, but we do have an MVL supporter. Hardwell24 is going with MVL. Does anyone think that Wesley So can turn this around against Rajabov? He's go MVL, absolutely. But does anyone think that Wesley So can come back from the incredible performance that Rajabov put in as black in round one? So there appear to be no supporters. So someone actually doesn't hope that Wesley So turns around. That sounds a little bit harsh. Not quite sure what we've got exactly against Wesley So, but he's certainly up against it here. Now, hopefully, we will shortly be joined by our host, or our erstwhile host at the moment, Mr. Simon Williams, the Grandmaster. And speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Welcome back, Simon.
Hello, mate. Good and bad news, I'm afraid. The good news is I'm jumping back on. I thought you were doing a fantastic job there, by the way. You can see I've actually smartened myself up. But the bad news is I'm still waiting for the call. But I've heard I'm basically going to be on as soon as the Magnus Carson game finishes. So I thought I'd come and try to help you out for a little bit there. And thank you so much, Blair. I thought a round of applause for Blair. It's his first time. He didn't expect to be thrown into the deep end like this, and all of a sudden it was like boom, over to you, Blair. So you've got to be like, poor guy, man, poor guy being thrown to the wolves like that. So yes, but so I'll come on and just help for a little bit until I get a message where I have to leave quite sharpish. So
I think can we just jump straight in with the Carlsen Geary game, because we haven't seen that for a while, and that's the one game which is currently tied at 1-1.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen, and hopefully that will it'll probably make my video quality bad again, but it is There it is. So at least we can see the moves there. And I'd rather stay on this game because, of course, as soon as this game ends, I've got to get off. But well done to Blair. I mean, Blair's doing a fantastic job so far. And, you know, he's come on here. He's not getting paid anything, but he's supporting, and he deserves some good support. So cheers, mate. But this is the current position. And I would like to say also it's quite important because it's maybe Magnus's last chance. What it is today with the white pieces, and he probably realizes that. He probably realizes, okay, I've got white. This is my last white. I'm drawing the match. If I don't win this game, Aneesh has got white in the last round. Aneesh is really well prepared, and it's going to be very hard to win today. So I think he's going to try pushing as much as he can in this position. He's not going to give a draw quickly, but is he any better here? I mean, Aneesh has this kind of ugly pawn structure, but Aneesh also has quite an active rook. I'd say that's a pretty decent rook. The Magnus's knight on g3 is not a great knight. I mean, it's probably even. Would you go for even here, Blair?
No, I think when Geary's involved, I'm sorry to keep harping back, but it does seem to be even does seem to be the default option, doesn't it? In fairness.
It does.
But,
I mean,
let me ask you a question, Simon.
Sure.
How would you deal with the sort of mental letdown, the disappointment, which I think Anish surely would have suffered after round one? How's he is he upset, or is he confident that he's been able to do such a good job on him and he can continue to do so, or is he disappointed that he's let it slip?
I think he just gets on with it. I think these guys don't get too upset. I mean, over the course of their life, they've had so many ups and downs, you know, and they've had so many times when they've just had to strengthen them up. They wouldn't be here in the world's elite if they couldn't deal with, you know, missing wins and stuff like that. So I don't think it's going to affect him too much. I think one thing, though, is that, you know, it might affect Magnus in some ways. That, okay, he got that confidence, but Magnus is probably thinking, I need to get a win in today. He's my rival. I need to maybe take more risks, because I've got a feeling that Magnus could sort of over-risk things if he's not careful. So, I mean, I think the odds of this match, I think it's very likely to be 2-2. So that was a great bet. I mean, this game should be...
There is tomorrow to go, isn't there? So it's not like win at all costs today, is it?
No, no.
I wonder, in the pre-Twitter days, how did sort of Geary vent? You know, nowadays you can just sort of like log on to Twitter and make some sort of comment, spurious or otherwise. What did he do before Twitter was around in order to sort of like advertise or get over his disappointment?
Well, I mean, he has got a wife, which probably helps. He loves chess, so obviously he probably does a lot of chess preparation and things like that. So, I mean, you know, if you're this level, you've got to absolutely love. You've got to love chess. So I think that keeps all these guys as busy as can be, can't it, really? I'm actually thinking, Blair, the more I look at this position, the more I'm thinking, okay, look, Magnus is probably fine, but I'd certainly rather be black, because let's say, I don't know if I take the rook or the bishop, but if I do take with the bishop, I'm now thinking, look at that knight on g3. The knight on g3, it can't actually move. And there's definitely some danger for Magnus here, because if black gets 2 more moves and the king gets the d6, Aneesh should be well on his way to winning this position. Imagine this structure here, Blair. You love the ending, with that king being able to pop in. And I don't think Magnus's king is really coming around. The rook can always come to d2. It seems to me like Magnus is in a little bit more danger in this position compared to Aneesh. Would you take black here?
I would definitely take black from the point of view. It seems quite clear how he should proceed, whereas it's not entirely clear to me how white should proceed. His rook seems a bit misplaced on c3, but like you said, more importantly, how's his knight going to get back into the game? He obviously can't go knight e4, e2, h5, or f1. The knight actually can't move. So perhaps he has to go rook e3 and suck it up and go knight e2 after that.
Well, look, Blair, sorry to interrupt, but we had another move. And again, I find this a surprising choice. He went, Geary went d takes c4, which, I don't know, it might be a very clever move, but I don't understand it, because the white knight can now move. The choice was either taking with the bishop or taking with the pawn. If you take with the bishop, this knight cannot move at all. It just can't get back in the game. You don't really want to go to h1. And black has a straightforward plan, as we just discussed. But by taking with the pawn here, well, this knight's free. What if I go knight f1, try to put it on e3, which I couldn't do before? E3 looks like a very good square, because I guard my pawn, I attack the pawn, and then maybe I can even bring my king in. So I don't like Geary's D takes C4.
Geary's a fantastic player. He must have had a reason, a motivation. I can't see it myself, unsurprisingly, but he must have had a reason, obviously. I'm sure he didn't overlook the possibility of bishop takes c4. So for some reason, he preferred d takes c4.
He did prefer d takes c4, but I don't for the life of me know why he played that move. By the way, we can just pop in the other games, by the way, if you want to.
Yeah, of course.
Because Aronian is 1 point down. That bloody evaluation bar's back. I'm sorry about that, but I think it's clear to see in this position you don't need evaluation bar. Aronian could be evening the scores if he can win this ending where he's the exchange up. And my figuring here is that he's got great chances of winning. I mean, maybe he can go g6 or maybe he can get his king in. I mean, it might be possible to draw, but it's not easy. So that could all go down to the last game. Wesley So, who is a point up, looks to be in serious trouble. This could lose the match. And what's that king doing there? Oh, well,
sorry, is that king on c5?
Rajabov's doing it again. Is that mate? Is that checkmate on the board? It's checkmate. Boom! Look at that. Rajabov on fire. I can't believe it.
Match over, yeah?
It's match over. Rajabov has won today. Rajabov's playing like an absolute genius, right? I mean, he's playing.
You know what? I don't even think we need the other matches to finish to have player of the day, do we? I think it's done and dusted already. I mean, it'd be incredible to think that anyone else could become player of the day or performance of the day.
I totally agree. Rajabov has performed so well, and I love. It's not just that he's playing well. I love the way he's playing, Blake, because he's playing. He's taking risks. He's going for the win. And let's just see where it all sort of changed, because. Okay,
is that a helpmate by Wesley So? Is he so upset with himself that he's sort of just decided to get an early bath?
It looks something like that, doesn't it? And what around here, okay, this position is, I don't know, we haven't got the valuation bar on. I want to just point that out. And around here, you expect this knight to move, but bishop a5 was played. And what's the idea if... What is Black's idea? Because Black is a piece down, but clearly he's got an idea. Is it just to go rook c8 and just to come into c2? And if you go rook c1, I just take it and I bring the other rook here. You have to go here, and then I go here. This is fantastic. And then I go here, and then in this position, I mate you somehow.
No, I'll tell you what, he'd play in this position, king g7.
Yes, he loves his king g7, doesn't he? But this is fantastic. Okay.
He's probably still winning, isn't he, if he plays king g7? I know it's not the best move, but...
So this bishop a5 is brilliant. And bishop takes d6 was played. And now the knight comes in. The knight comes to attack the bishop. And Rajabov, even though Rajabov doesn't have queens on the board, he keeps attacking. A3 check. King comes. Now the knight dives in. And this is really bad news for white. He grabs the pawn. But look at this move. This is simply brilliant, Blair. He goes bishop b4 check. I don't know what move I like more, that move or the move he played earlier on. What a move. What a move that is. And this has to really be taken. And now knight to a2 check. And after king c5, he doesn't even take the rook, Blair. He goes rook e6. And b6 checkmate is coming.
So Wesley So didn't just throw the towel. This is indefensible. It can't be defended, I guess, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, let's say you try d5 to try and give yourself the d4 square.
Well, worst case scenario, we could just win the rook on c1, but...
Yeah, we can.
You're always looking for more, aren't you?
Well, I think we can just do this. We go rook e4 check, king here, and we can even take it with check. We take the rook with check, which is good enough. I mean, the way the game finished, he went b6 to try and stop Black from playing it, but that is checkmate on move 31 on the board. Rajabov is flying, right? Rajabov is having the time of his life there, and I really didn't expect him to beat Wesley So. Did you? I mean, Wesley So's good.
No, I didn't expect him. If you remember at the start of the broadcast, I asked you for a bit more information about Rajabov. Obviously, I've seen him play, and I know how incredibly talented he is, and maybe this format suits him very well. But Wesley So. He's been world ranked #2 in classical chess. He's been a finalist in Speed Chess Championships on a couple of occasions, running Hikaru Nakamura incredibly close. I mean, Wesley So is not the sort of person you expect to go down like this. Not twice. He's lost twice as white as well. That's pretty impressive.
I know. I mean, Rajpov's just destroyed him, absolutely destroyed him with some lovely, lovely tactics as well. And you have to say, brilliant stuff there. I mean, okay. I mean, let's have a look now. MVL is also a point up. So if MVL wins this game, let's just remember, if MVL wins this game, he also goes through. And this seems kind of game where you don't want to take too many risks because you're probably in a good match situation anyway.
Yeah.
So you don't want to go crazy. All you have to do is draw your last round. It kind of looks even to me, Blair. I mean, I don't think there's too much going on here, is there?
I don't think there's too much going on. I mean, I'm surprised that is Black got a tiny pool because because of the colour of the bishop. So they've immediately gone off the board. So
yeah,
that ruined that concept.
I mean, maybe Black is slightly better, right? Because he has the C file as well. I mean, this is one advantage you could say that Black is pushing. But we saw MVL defend that horrible ending a while back, and if he can defend that, he should be able to defend this position. I mean, maybe Hikaru's got some chances to push here, but not anything to be too scared about. Yeah,
I think from a game theory, match strategy point of view, I think obviously it's Hikaru can win against anyone with either colour, and obviously facing him needing a draw with Black is not a given, is it? But I think Maxime would very much like to be in the situation, if he can be, going into the fourth game with a 1 point lead, knowing that a draw as Black would be good enough. I think he'd be more than happy for that at the start of the day. I'm not saying he went to bed dreaming of a 1 point lead. Obviously, he's an incredible player, but he'd be very happy, won't he? And I think definitely. I can't see Hikaru live. I don't have any webcam on, but I can almost feel his tension. He seems to sort of be blitzing out certain moves. The opportunity passed up on or let slip in game 2 is just, it must be doing his head in, for want of a better phrase.
I love that phrase, doing his head in. It's doing his noggin in.
Are you allowed to use the phrase doing his Swede in, or is that not allowed? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. I don't even know what Swede is. What does that phrase mean? I don't know.
I think it's an alternative term for the head. Using a sort of vegetable.
I mean, we could talk about a little bit in English slang. Doing his head in. His head ain't right. Can you do any Cockney rhyming slang, Blair?
Not really.
No, I'm not very good.
I'll tell you what, the Cockney rhyming slang, or the Mockney rhyming slang, which you may appreciate, is the battleship. Do you know what that is?
The battleship.
Yeah.
Do I know what a battleship means?
You most certainly do, I can assure you. It's the battleship cruiser, the Boozer.
Right. Like, so if you go, I'm going down the battleship, that means I'm going to the cruiser, the boozer, and the boozer means the pub. So you've got to translate it 3 times before you get to the real meaning. That's a bit.
I have to say it's not quite as deep as the Mockney of Aristotle, but we won't go into that. People can, if they want, look that up. It's not as PC as the battleship. It's not that bad. But perhaps we should get back to the chess before we go too far off topic.
Could be. By the way, thank you, Phil No Limits, for buying the Art of the Attack on Chessball. I'm going to also say, we go back to Magnus Carlsen's game. We just leave it on that position. And I should say, obviously it's Black Friday. There's lots of sales going on. Chessable, you can buy my courses on discount, and me and Blair are bringing out a course very soon. And I think, as you can see from how we get on very well. We're good friends. And this course has taken us a couple of years. I have to admit, mainly Blair's work. The idea is to give you a very fun repertoire for Black after the move E5. So I've learned this opening for Black with the help of Blair, and I'm now getting ready to unleash it. And it's going to be a course on Chessball that is going to be a lot of fun. So it's all about fun and attacking lines, right, Blair? We're hoping that's going to come out. I've got to film it first sometime.
Of course. I noticed that in round 1, Magnus did us a massive favour by, I saw that you were broadcasting with the fantastic, experienced Dutch Grandmaster Erwin Lamy.
Yeah.
And Magnus actually did us a massive favour by playing the Kozo variation of the Roy Lopez 3 Knight GE7, which I honestly can tell everyone from, honestly, a lot of study. And it's not just my own study, it's research, bit of help with the computers, obviously, bit of Simon's help. It's an incredibly underrated move. And I'm surprised that more people don't play it, certainly in a practical sense.
So the opening we're talking about after Bishop B5 is Knight G7. This is what Blair has recommended to get an aggressive game. And everything we've recommended with E5, and we cover everything, is to get you an aggressive and fun game. And Magnus, he did play this in round one.
I mean,
and he,
Simon,
and he
if I could tell you
yeah.
a line here, which a lot of people play, even Grandmasters players, sort of knee-jerk. I think they underestimate it so much that as a knee-jerk reaction, because the knight hasn't come to F6, pressuring E4, excuse me, white just play C3, almost like I've got the liberty of playing C3. And black's got the classic response here, D5. And black might be better already, by the way, almost. It's not quite that extreme. But this is just a very strong move.
Yeah. And one lovely trick that we looked at as well, Blair, I've got to try and remember all the work we've done. I've been doing a lot of lines building up to this, but this is the quickest ever lost I've seen Hikaru have. He lost to David Howe in an online game.
Our friend David Howe. Yeah.
He lost in the guy doing, David, great friend of ours, doing commentary. By the way, Magnus could be a draw, so I might have to jump off at very short notice. But to show you the trick there, it went, now I have to get this right, I believe castles. I'm looking at it from the wrong side. This is my problem. Castles, and now knight G6, D4. And this was Hikaru Nakamura with the white pieces, bishop here, bishop E3. And now they exchanged all the pieces off here. David Howe went queen G5, threatened the bishop. Hikaru went knight C3. And now after knight H4, Hikaru resigned. Probably one of the quickest ever losses that Hikaru's had. I showed this the other day. Queen to takes G2 is one idea, but you also can't stop knight to F3, winning the queen. So these are some of the kind of tricky ideas that Blair's found as well, which is
you may not believe this, Simon, but I've had this position 20 times against 2,400 blitz-rated players on the internet. 20 times I've had this exact position on the internet.
That's crazy.
Played knight H4.
Yeah, that's great. So keep an eye out for that course. It should be coming out in a couple of weeks, and it's going to give you a fun repertoire V5. Now we're going to go back to Magnus Carlsen's game. There was a little bit of a point here where Geary went rook E5 check and then rook D5, effectively offering a draw, because Magnus could have gone king E4 and got a draw like this. And I think, Blair, I'm going to say I was right. I think the decision to take here with a pawn was a really bad one by Geary. The bishop is terrible.
I just don't understand that at all. You pointed it out. I mean, before you even saw the move, you predicted very strongly the bishop takes C4 should happen. And it turns out he played D takes C4. And I truly don't understand it. I mean, it's well beyond my wit.
And after this position here, well, it probably is a draw because there's little material. But let's just go back to where that happened. In this position, Geary took with a D pawn. His bishop becomes bad, and he allows the white knight, as we're going to see, to start traveling. Had he just taken with the bishop, his bishop has better range. The knight can't move. I don't understand that at all. And let's go now, current position. I mean, is this winnable? I mean, it shouldn't be winnable. This should, of course, be a draw. Should, of course, be a draw. By the way, Mikhail Smyslov is saying, why not F5 rather than the Kozio? The problem is there is one line I found quite annoying with some D3 move there. We did have a look at it and talk about it, but then we came to the conclusion that Kozio, this knight G7, is actually a load of fun, and it's not even as well prepared. You still can go F5 in a lot of lines. So we're just trying to find the most fun opening variation we could. And I think now maybe it is a draw. This maybe is looking like a draw, unless, Magnus playing the king back there straight away. I expect there'll be a draw very shortly here, right? So, yeah. Okay, well, look, you know what? I'm probably going to have to jump off as soon as this is over, Blair. You're going to be all right?
You do appreciate that the match isn't over yet, don't you? I mean, it's like, it's the match not over yet. It's only 1.5.
No, I've got to go on the TV studio as soon as this game goes. I always come on before round 4. So
I see. Okay, of course. So your requirements are elsewhere, obviously. Absolutely fine.
I'm afraid so. And I'll be back as soon as I can. I'm normally only on there for 10 minutes. So I suggest actually when I leave, we take another short break just to give Blair a chance to, regroup, because he's doing a fantastic job. And then he can come back on, and hopefully I won't be too long, mate. Or if you want me to finish off the show as well, and, you want to have a little, you want to leave us, that's, whatever you want, Blair. It's up to you, mate, because you've done a great job today.
Very kind. But I look forward to seeing you back. Hopefully I'll return when you're back. I assume you will have the opportunity to return and do a round-up at least, if nothing else.
I won't be too long. I'll be back for the last round. I mean, we're just doing a little round-up of the game still going on, I think, at the moment here. Now, Aronian has leveled the score. So Aronian is equal with Nepo. It's all in the last round. Rajabov is through today. and Hikaru versus MVL. Hikaru's a point down, and
a pawn
MVL
down.
he's a pawn down. So if
It's a
MVL
pawn
wins
and
this
a
game,
pawn down. This is not looking too clever for him, is it?
no. I mean, he might. I think he should be able to hold this because his rook is so much more active than MVL's, and he also has some ideas of bringing his knight in. It should be holdable, but it's not so easy. And then, of course, Magnus Carlsen is a draw. Right, I've got to get off, mate. I'll see you soon. So I'm going to leave the call. We're going to go to a break, and then you've got Blair again. Okay? Thanks, Blair.
It's not quite fate worse than death, but I'll see you in a bit. Bye for now.
See you later. Bye.
No problem. Thank you, very kind. Cheers, mate. That's very kind. Happy to help out. Obviously, got on well with Simon, so I know I've got his support. He's got mine, so it works quite well, doesn't it? again fulfill his obligations of commenting on Magnus's current position or his current situation in the tournament, which is finely balanced at 1.5 points each going into the fourth game. Aneesh has the white pieces in the fourth game, and I have to say, I think that my slightly after timing suggestion of a draw in this match is looking pretty good. I don't think there'll be many fireworks in the last game. I think given what's happened today, they can both take positives away from it. Aneesh has shown that his preparation is fantastic. He's shown that today he's more than a match for Magnus. And if anyone had the advantage or the possibility of going a point up or winning today's mini match, it certainly was Aneesh to this point. Of course, we should never write off Magnus Carlsen. And if anyone can turn it around and make a win with black in the final game of 4, taking a lead into tomorrow, it would be Magnus Carlsen. But I actually think this game could be a pretty solid draw. It wouldn't surprise me if they actually repeated their sort of game from the match game 2 of this round, and it wouldn't surprise me if it went E4 and C5, and they played through a fairly safe, fairly solid game. And it wouldn't surprise me if the match was 2-2 going into tomorrow. As I say, Magnus might go to sleep tonight thinking, you know what, I got away with one there. Aneesh might go to sleep tonight thinking, maybe I could have taken more advantage. But as the match reduces in time, variance increases, and he can have the opportunity of like spiking him tomorrow. Moving on, in the second match in the top half, we have Aronian, who I've got to say continues to impress me, because the guy has had his troubles this year in life, as many of you might know. But for him to take the challenge to Nepo, who's one of the strongest current players, definitely an upswinger, and he's managed to level that match at 1.5 going into the fourth round, a game which is currently in progress. He does have the slight disadvantage of the black pieces. And then obviously the man of the day, without a shadow of a doubt, Timur Radjabov. Wow. We've said all we need to say about that. Simon, with his great understanding, did tell us that despite the fact, to my untrained eye, that in the game 3 of their match, Vasily Graf, who was currently 1 point up and seemed to be also a clear pawn up, turns out that Nakamura is actually probably going to hold that game, and he's got everything to play for going into match 4, or game 4 of their match, needing a victory to tie off the scores. So does that change, if looking at the chat, does that change anyone's opinion? Answering some of the questions, how many rounds are there today? Well, today is the quarterfinals. 8 players have qualified, and they are drawn 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 4 versus 5, and 3 versus 6. To answer the question, so how many rounds are there today? It is a best of 4 mini match. Each single mini match could end up in a draw today, and they will take 1 game point or half a game point going through to tomorrow's second round of mini matches. And obviously, if you win the mini match today, your opponent would need to win the mini match tomorrow. If you draw the mini match today, then you play again 4 games against the same opponent, and that is a mini match as well. If the scores are tied, because one person wins a match and loses a match, or both matches are tied 2-2, it then goes down to the nub end. It is the whites of the eyes time, where there will be 2 blitz games. The winner of those 2 blitz games will qualify, or should those 2 blitz games be tied at 1-1, it will go down to that much fated Armageddon. Now, I see in the chat, the question is, what's happening to Nakamura? Unfortunately, I don't have the possibility of showing you this game at the moment, but I can tell you what is happening at the moment. And so chat is helping me out here. Vasily Graf is probably going to draw round 3, and here's our main man back now.
Well, I have to say thank you so much, Blair, again. As I keep saying, you're doing a fantastic job. I mean, if you want to go and have a little break or whatever you prefer, Blair, then please do feel free to, even if you want to leave us, you've done a great day. But, we want Blair to stay, of course. I'm not kicking him out, but it's totally up to you, mate. And
that's very kind. I'd like to learn a little bit off you. And what did you comment on? Maybe you can fill us in, or is it top secret?
No, not top secret at all. It's quite scary because you're like, all of a sudden you're sort of sitting there. I came off the thing with you. They Skype call you, and after they're like, "Are you okay?" in their Norwegian accent. And I'm like, "Yeah." And then it's like in the studio, and they're like, "Hello, Simon Williams. What did you think of this position?" I'm like, "Right, okay." And then you've got to try to work it out. I basically talked about Rajabos round 1 game.
Unbelievable.
This was probably the highlight, maybe, of the tournament, attacking
Oh,
play.
sure, no doubt in my mind. Sorry.
I mean, we don't have time to look at much, but I can tell you what I did talk about, because given the chance, I would have started with this rook g8 move, but obviously their audience is a little bit low. So instead, I just showed the position where black played king to f8, because I thought this was a really nice way that black gets the king in the attack, right? And I also gave the line rook g3, right? So I thought I'd show that one. That's a nice one to show you. So we had a look at that, and we just talked about the last round. And the last round's exciting, Blair. Yeah, I mean, anything can happen, right? In the last round.
I'll tell you what, I was just saying when you were away, I've got a feeling that they were going to play a pretty dull game in round 4. I wouldn't surprise me if it went e4, c5, similar position. They both went to sleep tonight, both thinking they've got something out today.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could either go that way or the complete opposite, right? I mean,
if anyone can, Magnus can.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes mental as well and just tries to kill him. That's also possible. By the way, I didn't see what happened.
Your understanding was incredible. Nakamura held that game very comfortably. Maybe you just want to show that, because to my side, I say untrained eye, which is probably a bit unfair on myself, but I thought that Vasiligarov was a pawn up, and Hikaru had no problem. Exactly what you said. He held it with ease, Hikaru.
Right. So we had this kind of position here where white wins the pawn. Okay, I've got to share the screen. Sorry, I forgot to do that. So let me just share the screen. My fault there. Hopefully you can see the screen now, so we can have a look at that game. Is that showing? Can let me know if that's showing or not, the screen. Can't see it at the moment. It is. Okay, brilliant. Okay, I'm seeing double though. Yeah, it did seem like Hikaru has this active rook, and in the ending, one of the most important things if you get to a rook ending is have the active rook, even if it costs you a pawn or so. And it looks like this rook caused a lot of trouble, right? Just came around and kept annoying the opponent. So, and the king came in. Yeah, okay, pretty solid draw. By the way,
if I could just chip in here, maybe because like the live action is taking place, and the live action is currently taking place with the Pomniashis into round 4. Is Magnus into round 4 as well now as well?
They are, and we're going to get this from the start. And you could be right.
Well, I was wrong completely, because I said Sicilian, didn't I? It's just turned out it isn't.
But you also said it would be a pretty sort of sensible game, I think, at the same time. And by the way, in this variation, I've had a lot of fun. We were talking about the course me and Blair were bringing out, and we certainly did not go for this line, which is far too positional. I just want to point out what we've looked at. We've gone for knight f6, and then after d3, h6 with Geary pawn coming down the board. And I'll tell you what, this is so fun to play, right? So
white plays c3 here, yeah?
Yeah.
A normal move. That's sort of the classic Italian setup. You know what to do, Simon. You taught me this.
Yeah, g5. And this is something. So again, if you want to play, if you're a bit stuck with the black pieces and you get a bit bored, because a lot of the positions you see in this are quite boring. Magnus Carlsen has just gone h6, by the way, so I wonder if he's going to do this. This would be crazy.
Incoming, as they say.
I mean, it could be. I mean, a lot of these positions are quite boring, but if you want to get an interesting game and confuse your opponent, then we're going for this h6, which is a little bit like the black line. So that's also a very interesting way to play. And that's what we're looking at, interesting way to play. Anyway, back to the game. A little bit more positional. And these games normally at top level end in draws, right, Blair? That's what it seems to be. I mean, Castles.
To me, I honestly think, given what's happened today, Magnus has got away with one in the game 1. I think Aneesh doesn't want to, he's missed an opportunity. But what would be fatal for him is to lose this game with the white pieces. He will not sleep tonight if that happens.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, after throwing away some opportunities, you want to make sure you don't give too much away, and
you want to go back into tomorrow alive, don't you? And just it's not quite that anyone can win in a game of 4 against Magnus. Obviously, I think pretty sure if I played him, it'd be 4-0. But Anish can certainly win in a match of 4 against him tomorrow. Yeah. Or equally well do a 2-all draw and take it down to blitz games and then Armageddon.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when you're the underdog, which Aneesh is, I suppose the later you leave it in the day, the better your chances become. Because if it suddenly is not a 8-game match, which maybe it was at the start, but it's a 1-game match, all you have to do is win 1 game, then it really becomes a bit more of a crap shot there. And so I think a draw today, and he should be generally quite happy. But when he looks at the games, he'd probably be a little bit upset as well,
But equally well, there's something for them both to take away. I mean, not that they need anything to take away as such. Magnus is a double world champion, reigning world champion, #1 for I don't know how many years now. But they've both got something to take away from today in the context of this situation.
Definitely. And Blair, I was wondering, I think you are very well spoken. It'd be nice to have a vote on this. Do we think Blair is the most well-spoken streamer of chess in the world? I think we should claim that. I think we should claim that right. Someone said that we're both very well-spoken. I don't think I'm particularly well-spoken. You should hear me after a couple of shandies down the pub. Probably Blair as well. But at the moment, can we give Blair that title? The best spoken chap online. Can we do that? Oh, Peter Svidler. Oh, do you think? Yeah, that's
I mean, come on, you can't. There's no knocking that. Whoever said that is absolutely correct. I mean, I'll tell you what, Simon. It never fails to surprise me how knowledgeable the people who follow you in chat are. They kind of they seem to know more than me. Well, that's not surprising, but I've got to salute them. Without a doubt, Peter Svidler. And it's not even his first language, is it? So imagine you and I trying to speak in Russian.
Yeah, we wouldn't get very far. I mean,
we wouldn't get very far at all. Baruski or something like this,
I mean, I think Peter Svidler is an absolute gentleman. I mean, he's really, really humble, too humble sometimes. 8 times Russian champion. And his English is much better than mine, which is really embarrassing.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to follow his games closely in this tournament. How did he get on? Because I know that he's sort of he's not as dedicated as players, people like Hikaru, and I say dedicated, I don't mean that pejoratively. I just mean that he's moved away from playing as many tournaments as like Magnus and Hikaru. How did he get on? Did he compete?
What in this tournament? Yeah, he did. He didn't have one of his best times. He had some glimpses of brilliancy, but in the end, he was blundering a bit too much. He probably, don't want to be rude, but Svidler he blundered much more than he normally does, and maybe more than most of the other players. And obviously, at this level, even though it's rapid play, you just can't blunder. Now,
but I think to put that in context, if we may quickly, I know we'd need to go back to games very quickly. You've been playing in a number of online sort of tournaments organised by a friend of yours against Peter, and you can tell us how strong he is, surely.
Well, I mean, he's clear how strong he is. He's bloody strong. I mean, it was really nice. We used to have these tournaments during the last COVID lockdown that Blair's talking about, and we had a friend, an international master, and they were like invite only, where you had to have a password, but it was always on a Sunday. And it always started about 6 o'clock, and you had Peter Svidler and Elior's played, David Howe, lots of the English old grandmasters like Julian Hodgson was great, David Norwood, and it used to be my sort of routine. That was my break, and on the Sunday I could sit in my office, put some music on because I never commentated on it, and I'd have a lot of beers where I played. It was so nice just to play some blitz with a beer. There's nothing like blitz with a beer, Blair, is there? Is there surely?
Absolutely not. What's your music? What is your music of choice? Because I know that in the Speed Chess Championship, they always asked people like Hikaru what his music of choice was, and he came out with some quite strange answers. For me, I know it's subjective. What's your music of choice for Blitz?
Well, it's a bit different to what I normally listen to. Let's maybe put it like that. I mean,
it's not the Spice Girls and Atomic Kitten. It's something.
It's certainly not. It's certainly not. It is. I actually was listening. Okay, when I'm really trying to concentrate, I found that Philip Glass, the composer, was quite good, which I don't listen to any other time. But then I might want to put on a bit of AC/DC. So if I lose a game or two, I've got to whack on some heavy AC/DC. And then, if it's going about average, generally a bit of rock, but then even a bit of psychedelic like trance music to get zoned out. So it kind of depends on my play. So if I'm in a really aggressive mood,
it might be slightly counterproductive, but I'm a big fan of sort of John Cage 432 or 453 or whatever it is. Don't know if you're familiar with that one.
I don't know. I'll have to look that one up. Also,
Maybe
Eric Satie.
That one up. And
by the way, Charlie the Chess Cat.
Maybe we should get back to the game, of course.
Well, maybe. I mean, the bits and bobs are going on. But Charlie Chesscat also mentions Eric Satie, who I quite like. You know, a bit of yeah. So it's really weird, very very weird music. So what's happening here, Blair? I mean, we go through
Let's
position.
look at the games.
Yeah, and something has happened which is quite interesting. I mean, I don't always find these ones the most interesting, but when White does play d4, the position kind of explodes a bit, and we get a lot of action. And in this position after d4, something's starting to grow. And now bishop a7, seemingly giving up this pawn, but knight g4 threatens f2 and threatens e5. And Geary plays bishop e3 quickly. Maybe Geary's still inferior here. It seems odd to give up that bishop to me, but I suppose it can't really be taken because you're winning e5. Is Geary doing well here, potentially? With a slightly better... Or is it just even after bishop takes e3?
That was a rhetorical question to me, obviously. I've got to say, when you go back to when we talked about from a club player's repertoire, for the majority of players, for Black to go and play the move g5, at least it gives them an absolute direction of what to do. I've, in my experience of chess, played the positions of these sides both with White and Black, and I'll tell you what, I lose both sides. I just don't understand them. I'll be honest. They're really technical. They're really hard to fathom. The subtleties, the variations, very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think, you guys, if you're trying to learn chess and get better, learning these positions is probably a really good thing to do. But to learn them, you can't really learn them with the computers, because they're really subtle, where you put your pieces, what exchanges you make, and a computer won't tell you that. It just can't tell you why you're moving your pieces. And this is a really hard opening to learn. I mean, you know, for players like me and Blair, the subtleties, I don't understand them. I'm a grandmaster. So for someone lower rated, you'd have to dedicate a hell of a lot of time. And that's another reason we've gone for a more aggressive system for Black, because, you know, when we're doing our course with this G5, because it's much more understandable. And I think that's important. When you're learning an opening, you've got to bear in mind how understandable it is to learn. And this one's tough. I think Granddad Master is that Leon in the chat? He loves you, Leon. Look at it. RB Blair with bells on. Blair's no such thing as bad plus publicity. Blair's no such thing as a free lunch. He's getting some puns out there.
Absolutely no such thing as a free lunch. That will be £2.50, please. But let's move back to the games. Let's see how the other finally balance. How's Nakamura getting on? Because I tell you what, I've got a little bit. I'm getting to that point now, having opened a bottle of Chianti. But I'd quite like to see. I don't know if I should say this live, but I'd quite like to see MVR win this mini match. I've got to say.
You can say that. You can say whatever you want, mate. Well, in boundaries. But after that next bottle of Chianti, it could be. I wish, you know, there's times like this where I'm having the month of drinking.
Live again.
Well, you know, when I never thought this would happen, me and you live on a big show, but it's quite cool. But no, it's times like this when literally I'm having a month of drinking, but I'd love to be having a nice glass of red wine or something now with you. That would be, but you know, I'm going to stay strong.
I guess I should say something with the Chianti about fothering beans or something like this, but that's a sort of like Hannibal Lecter reference. Anyway, let's see can we see how Nakamura's getting on? Because I would take some pride in watching it live and seeing MVL do well, because MVL's a fantastic, amazing player, isn't he?
It looks very even at the moment. I mean, I think White may have a very slight advantage here. Lots of flexibility.
If I'm seeing the same position as you, it looks very even because no moves have been played. But
exactly, very flexible position. Lots of different manoeuvres could be done. Both sides' kings are in a little bit of danger because they're lacking that castling aspect, and they're both behind in development as well. But I would say slight favourite to White at the moment, but you know, Hikaru's got to really make this a position a lot more aggressive. That's my roundup of things so far. Is that fair? Have I missed anything there, Blair? Do you think?
I think Nakamura is just thinking what to do. Either that or the game hasn't started. I favour the latter, not the former.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, the game.
Can I ask you a question about earlier proceedings? I mean, I don't know how to pronounce it again. I mean, David Anton. I don't know how you pronounce his surname. The Spanish guy who was in the 16 players.
You know what? Have another bottle of wine, and the pronunciation will be fantastic. It'll be spot on. That's what I say. I say David Anton, but I always get told off for that. You know, my pronunciations are are absolutely appalling. So, you know,
Well, we unreservedly apologise if we get it wrong, don't we? We certainly don't mean any player and their names disrespect, do we?
no, of course not. Of course not. I mean, I've been called a lot worse, I'm sure.
And I imagine if you got called Simon Williams, you'd be not unreasonably unhappy about it, would you?
I'd be very happy to be called Williams. I mean, like I say, I've been called a lot of stuff, and you know, it's. I mean, if it's not on purpose, what can be done? And
it's not meant to disrespect, is it?
No. By the way, thank you, 1NC3, for buying the Botvinnik course on Chessable. Loads of good courses there. You can go and check them out. We are having a GingerGM.
Let's take some live action, yeah?
We are. Let's go back. Let's go to this one, because, again, this is really key. We're just going to go the current positions. By the way, I don't know if Rajabov So, this game, there's any point in them playing. I mean, they might have to play because it's in the contract, because maybe part of the contract is even if you lost the match, you have to play. But Wesley So, whatever he does, even if he wins, he's out of the match. So I'm just wondering if he's going to bother playing. Back to...
I think it would be a bit strange to make them play a game which, like, they could easily, like, I know there might be these Sophia rules where they can't agree a draw, but effectively it's in both their interests just to relax, go to bed, take stock, and come back tomorrow, isn't it? I can't imagine they make them play. It would seem very strange.
It would be. By the way, Suckling is saying come back to Hull soon. I actually really enjoyed... I did a simul in Hull, Blair, and I had a night out in Hull, and it was really cool place. Have you ever been to Hull?
Who was doing the simul?
I just know that is a joke. That's a Blair. When you get used to Blair, that's a Blair joke. Clearly not me. But yeah, no, I had a great time in Hull. Love to go back. But isn't White doing all right here? I mean, or is Black doing okay? This seems quite an interesting position, though.
Well, why don't you talk us through what you understand about this and dynamic tendencies?
Well, I mean, it's an asymmetrical position, so that means it's more dynamic. And White has now grabbed this pawn. Aronian is one of the best players on 1e5, the Spanish positions. And he's now, has he got enough compensation for the pawn? I mean, he's got this bishop here, but that bishop can be shut off with the move c5. He's got maybe a knight coming here, but I just don't think he's got enough compensation. The bishop on b2, great. White's knight's in the center. To me, without using the computer, this seems like a free pawn. I mean, let's just say, I mean, maybe it could get dangerous. Let's say I take this one, you take with a rook, and I could be eating my words with queen h4, knight f4 coming. Maybe it is lots of compensation. I also want to go to Anish Geary versus Magnus Carlsen, because this has changed quite a lot. We had bishop e3, knight takes, pawn takes here, and now if we look at the position here, Blair, well, you know, Geary is a pawn up, and Magnus's pawns are pretty horrible over on the king side. Is this enough compensation? I mean, these games are not boring. Is this enough compensation for Magnus? It's White to move as well.
Through it, because I mean, if you offered me, you wouldn't have to put a gun to my head. I'd pick White in a heartbeat. I don't think White can sort of possibly lose this game. Of course, it's possible to lose this game, but it seems to me to be not quite a clean pawn, because obviously Black's got the two bishops, open lines. But what's going on here?
I mean, I think Magnus is relying on his bishop on a7. This is what he's saying is worth a pawn. He's saying this compensation here is worth. I mean, I think he's taken a lot of risks. And I think I mentioned this earlier on, that the one danger a big danger Magnus has is, like, he thinks he has to push too hard, and he's got this rivalry with Geary, and he thinks, I need to beat Geary. I have to take risks.
He wants to put him down because he's a big challenger to him. As we've said in the chat before, Geary seems to have this incredible preparation and gets into lines he loves. I've got to say, that is an amazing move by Geary that he's just played.
By who? Sorry.
By Geary.
Oh, well, yes. in this position,
if there's going to be a winner, it's unbelievable.
The move of the tournament.
The D file is opened, and there is a possibility to remove the queens from the board.
And it goes
just one-way traffic now, surely.
Queen takes d8. Get those queens off for the boys. Is that how it goes, the song? I don't know. But anyway.
Exclamation mark box, as the old informator goes.
Double exclamation mark. Get the queen. Well, I mean, it makes sense when you're pawn up. And after bishop, I mean, after rook e2, he's now covering this one. Magnus gives up his good bishop. And I'm not really sure what Magnus is doing. Can you not even take that with your rook? I mean, I can take with a pawn if I want to be super safe, but then bishop g4.
Obviously, I guess you take the rook d2 is a bit of an issue, isn't it? Is it?
Well, then I just come back, right? I mean, if I go rook takes, you go rook d2, I'll come back to this square, and Magnus now, I guess, goes rook d8. And if he gets a rook in, he's okay. And this might be okay for Magnus.
As we saw in the last game, whatever recapture you're expecting on e3, which one are you expecting? Because I would absolutely take a pint bet with you that Geary will do the opposite.
Oh, yes, he does that a lot. When he starts thinking, he always plays the odd move. So he'd probably take with a pawn, right?
So what do you think you should take with, by the way?
Yeah.
And why?
I think he should probably, I don't know. I have to think about this as he is. I mean, I think if you take with a pawn, you've got no winning chances because, well, maybe you do, but I don't really understand this.
I think I might have seen something. If it goes rook takes e3, only because you pointed me out to this, if you can take that back one move, and he goes rook d2,
yeah,
as you suggested, rook e2, and then rook d8. I only saw this because you saw this, and then maybe there's a sort of repetition with rook d1, rook d2 sort of thing.
Yeah, could end that way. By the way, we have Fiona in the chat, and Fiona's telling everyone about your, when we did the pub quiz down in Godalming. So we did a pub quiz. Blair actually has his own pub quiz. We might actually get a pub. Let's get a pub quiz question off Blair if he can remember it. But I like putting him on the spot today. But hello, Fiona. And we came up with quite an interesting pub quiz name. I think we did all right, actually. We didn't. I mean, I'm terrible and Blair's good. Give us a pub quiz question, Blair. Can you think of one that we can have a little think about? No Googling, people. No Googling.
Is it chess related or otherwise?
I think we'll go otherwise. Anything. Just any pub quiz question.
Demerara sugar.
Sorry, say that again.
After Demerara sugar. You know, it's the brown sugar.
Demerara.
Not Muscovado. Demerara sugar is named after a region. In which country?
Demerara.
Yeah.
Demerara sugar is named after a region in which country? Hello to Darren. Darren's in the chat as well. Hope you're doing all right. Demerara. What is Portugal? Spain.
It's in South America, by the way, if you need a clue.
Oh, okay. Anyone got it? So, okay, someone has said Spain.
Which now they know it's in South America, is probably they're going to retract that. It's like a mulligan. They're going to take that back, aren't they?
Al Blairerick.
There we go. I tell you what, one of your loyal followers, an incredibly smart guy, Neil M. Barker, is straight in there. And he didn't have the time to Google it either. The man's a genius.
Say the name of Guyana.
Yeah, Guyana. That's correct. And he didn't obviously, nice. And then that's too quick for him to have Googled that, I guess. You know,
that's pretty good.
Of course,
work,
he's not. He's a gentleman. Yeah. Anyway, if we go back to this position on the board, I guess after King F1.
Oh, he's gone pawn takes. Of course, he's gone pawn takes. The move.
There we go. I told you he'd do this. He does this just to annoy you, yeah.
I know. Whenever I say, "Oh, Geary will do this," he just does the other move. And
I'll tell you what. Can I put it out there now? I think Carlsen's going to win this game.
You think Carson's going to win? Really?
Yeah. I think Carlsen's going to win this game. I really do. Yeah, I think Geary's on. I think Geary spent too much time concentrating on what could have happened in round one, and. I honestly, I think, okay, I'll put it out there now live. I think Carlsen's going to win this game.
I mean, there's definitely a chance. I mean, the thing is, he's got a time advantage. And if he does win this pawn, just imagine Carlsen takes that pawn with his rook. Then I expect Carlsen will win because the pawn on e3, because Geary's just put it there for some reason. I mean, Geary's basically saying, I want to win. He's put the pawn there. But if you ever lose this pawn now, then, I mean, I was thinking Carlsen could play like here, bishop here, something. Bishop here, this is quite forcing. You have to move the bishop here, and let's say, where do you move the rook now? If you go like rook f2, now I play rook here, and I try to win the pawn like this. And I was thinking, hang on a minute, this is, if I win this pawn, I'll just put that on the board. Then I think Magnus is certainly better because he could definitely win the e3 pawn. So there is a bit of danger. He didn't do that though. He went king f7.
Can I just quickly say, a guy who's fantastically followed us or followed you more particularly all day, Mr. Smyslov, has found a beautiful way of reframing it. Geary loves not winning.
Well, we can't keep going with the draw jokes with Geary.
No, I think he's got a new spin on it. He's not suggesting it's going to be a draw. He just loves not winning. Perhaps he's going to lose this one.
I mean, it's possible, yeah. I mean, King. I mean, let's
I
all
told
look.
you, as soon as you went F takes E3, I do not have any access to any more live information than anyone else. I think Carlsen's going to win. I really do.
I don't think you will. I mean, I think Geary is a pawn up. I mean, you surely can't lose this position unless. I mean, Geary's good, yeah. I mean, he's no idiot. I mean, what about
Simon?
okay.
You're our grandmaster. Money talks and BS walks. So we're going to have a little wager.
We can have a wager, yeah, definitely. I mean, what do you want to wager?
I want you to give me odds. I'll tell you what. I want to wager
Hang on a minute. You were like, you put the thing out there. You said Magnus is going to win, and now you want odds. That's not how it works. I want odds because you're the one who proposed the bets. I will give you just evens. Evens is fair. I'm not odds, man.
I accept.
The bishop's now coming here. Okay. You better get the betting. Okay, what are we betting? First bottle of wine down the pub or something?
It's too late. It's after. I did say at the time. It's after timing now.
No, we do it. I mean, because I'll still take the bet because I think he'll still hold this. But should we go first? Drink down the pub when we meet, something like that.
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Why don't you tell people why this is absolutely in deep trouble now for Geary?
I don't know if it's deep trouble. I'm still thinking this is okay, to be fair. But I mean, now I expect Magnus will go bishop d3. He might go rook d3, which is not so stupid. He might actually try for more and try to take these pawns. But if he does play it simple and go here, Geary goes here, he takes here. I mean, I think this is all right though, because you go rook d1, and I think this is not big trouble because you are quite active. Yes, it's one pawn, but look at Magnus's pawns. I mean, this extra pawn on the king side is not worth anything. I don't think Magnus, even if you win the pawn.
But look at the live move that he's played.
He's played rook d3. He's lobbed it in there. He's lobbed it in there. Yeah. Aldo saying first and last drink, don't the pub. If you can remember the bet on the last. I think we already had a bet on something. I can't remember what it was. What did we have a bet on earlier? Any idea? I can't remember what we had a bet on.
Come on, let's look at this game. Honestly, this could be the incredible turnaround of the day. Geary was absolutely winning with his queen f2 move in game 1 of this mini match. And now look at what he's having to grovel just to get away with this. If he loses this, he's not sleeping tonight, is he? Surely.
Well, he's going to have to at some point. I mean, he might hit the wine, Blair. Can you imagine Geary hitting the wine? I can't imagine that.
So. Well, you know him better than I do, I'm sure. But I've got a really nice story, if I may tell about Geary very quickly, without distracting you too much. I asked him for a game in the London Classic, and he offered me a game in a 3-minute game. I'll tell you what, I've never been beaten by someone who had to think for not 1 second. He literally just autopiloted a victory against me. I just learned how strong these guys are at that moment.
But wasn't it very nice? Because obviously Geary had just finished playing his game as a little
VIP. He finished a 6-hour game. That's absolutely true.
And also, I mean, the thing was, as far as I remember, I mean, obviously there's free wine in the VIP room. So we were like, I don't know if I was there, I was probably down the pub, but we were necking the wine if I was there. Geary just finished this 6-hour game. The last thing he wants, he didn't win the game, I don't think. The last thing he wants is some drunk Blair coming up saying, Geary, give us a game of 5-minute chess. And what did he say to that? I mean,
he said, look, if I play you, everyone else is going to notice and they're going to come up and ask me to play me as well. And I really don't want that to happen. He was very polite. He was incredibly polite, very gracious. And and obviously I don't take no for an answer. And so I said, we'll get away with it. We'll get away with it. And he did get away with it because the game barely lasted 3 minutes.
But it was still nice of him to play. Yeah. By the way,
amazing. I've got to say, what a character! And he taught me an incredible amount in that 2 minutes that he destroyed me in.
And by the way, just a little update with the chess. I mean, we're going to obviously concentrate on Aneesh versus thing, but this is a big game. If either side, Nepo or Aronian, wins this one, then they've won today. And anyone see Aronian win yesterday? He did a little celebration with his dog, which I thought was really cute. And he's now, I may have been wrong, he got his queen to h4, he got his knight to f4, he's got his rooks, and he's also got his bishop. Every black piece attacking. And look at this, Blair. Look at this. Rook b7, encouraging the next move. Boom! Opening up the white king. Pawn takes knight, and now double boom. Boom! In we go. Whoa, a double whamming there. And this is surely really good for black, because if you take it, I go queen takes g3 check. If you move your king, I'm going to go rook e2, which is curtains, queen h2, threatening your queen. If you go queen g2, probably have to do, I don't know, is this, I think I just play, I might even have the check on e3 might be strong.
Could you even just take the bishop, whatever?
Well, if I take the bishop, I was thinking maybe now as a rook takes
There's a
f7,
counter strike.
but I think black's still winning here because you take the pawn with check, and you also defend this one. And next move, you're going to slam dunk that rook into e2, right? So something like king h1, rook e. I mean, this is crushing. So I think Aronian could be going through.
I mean, we know that Rajabov is arguably, and it's almost insurmountable performance of the day. But for Aronian to go down in the second game and to come back with back-to-back wins, which he looks likely to do, is incredibly impressive.
Amazing. And by the way, d5 on the board. And I also this round is fascinating. Let's go. We're going to come back to Carson, but Hikaru versus MVL. What the hell is going on here, boys? What is going on? I mean, Hikaru needs to win. Is he just getting wiped out here? Is he just simply getting... Oh, look at the opening. Look at the opening. He went for the Trompovsky, tromping it up. And we go to the current position. Isn't black just... I can count. I'm sure I can.
May I ask you a question? Because I know you're not using computer, but you've looked at this position, and within a few seconds, you've literally established that white may be in trouble, white's getting wiped out. How do you do that?
I mean, that's what my job is, I guess. I mean,
no, but tell us why. But just tell us something about the position that I know that I can see the pawn on f2, but it's like, how do you know immediately that black is doing so well?
I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, black's 2 pawns up. That's easy to see. But just look at black's pieces. Black's got this bishop right in the middle of the board, which could never be moved away. And that's so strong. He has got his pawn on f2. And white's pieces, they can't really do anything. You can take this pawn, so you can get 1 pawn back. But white's pieces are just lacking any activity. I mean, I could be wrong. The rook comes in, but it's not doing much. MVO only needs to draw. I mean, this is very good for black, surely, right? Very good for black.
It looks to me, well, I trust your judgment, of course. But even, I mean, I'm sure I can make some judgment myself, but obviously you're a stronger player than me. But it goes back to my concept. Maybe Hikaru didn't plan to be 1 point down going into round 4 against MVL and punted out this Trompovsky or something. It doesn't seem to have worked out too well, does it?
No. I mean, I think the other thing, if you're asking about this, is there's a great skill for everyone to improve. All you guys watching, if you want to get better at chess, one thing I used to do, and I still do a lot, you might think, why is this going to help me? It does help you. Look, I'm just going to do it now. I'll grab a chess book, and I've got Archives Endings, classic book, and just get a chess book, a magazine. Look at a position. Don't look at the comments in the position. And without looking at the comments, just try to work out what's going on in the position. So you're diving into lots of positions. You've got to try to analyze who you think's better, not with a computer that misses the point, and then read the book to see who is better. And you can therefore get better at visualization. Visualization, a very important skill in chess.
I know you've said this before, but why is a computer not very good at teaching us how to learn chess and be better at chess?
By the way, Blair, sorry, mate. I'm going to...
No, let's go to the Magnus game, yeah?
Oh, my words. Look at this. You called it, man. You called it. Rook d3. I think Magnus is going to win. Geary's going to be killing himself. I mean, and now look at this. King d6. Beautiful play. I mean, why did he take with a pawn? Why? Why did he do this?
Because I don't take the rook, which was correct. He did it to spite you.
I know. He could have at least just taken a draw there, I think, you know. And now look at how Magnus does this. Look at this king. In it comes. And now... Rook d3.
Sorry, forgive me. What do you say? In like what?
In like Flynn, Errol Flynn, because Errol Flynn was in like
Tasmanian, yeah.
By the way, Aronian is through. Aronian is through.
He's not through. He's won his first match, yeah.
He's won. Oh yeah, there is tomorrow as well. They have the rematch tomorrow, but Aronian has won today. Brilliant tactics at the end there, and we saw after d5 the queen takes h3, threatening mate, and like we said, rook e2. And this one with the queen coming down with checkmate, boom. And Magnus Carlsen's doing it. I mean, Look at it. He's going to win his pawn, but look at his centralisation. This must be completely, well, very good, right?
Simon, I've got to tell you, what a great comment I just seen in the chat. The odds of Geary winning were not overestimated after all. And I'll tell you what, not only did he have his chances today, and he did have his chances, he still failed to probably even draw this match today. So you know what a great comment. And hence why we should all just enjoy the chess and keep our pounds in our pockets.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean,
what an unbelievable. I mean, is Geary going to lose? Is Geary going to lose this match? He will be absolutely bereft of any support in his own mind tomorrow. Honestly, is it game over?
I mean, I don't. Now Magnus is even getting his rook into d2, right? And he's going to win the pawn. His king can always take the pawn. His king's so active, bishop active, rook active. I mean, it looks really bad for Geary. I mean, the real problem is just this rook d2. Yeah, get the rook on d2, and it's horrible. You know, this is I think you've won the bet, mate. I think you have.
Well, I'm not so worried about the bet. I'm more worried about like the concept of the players. How would you feel if you were Geary after your big opportunity in game one today, finding a way of losing this game and almost certainly losing the match today? How do you bounce back from that? What would you do, Simon?
I mean, I think we talked about this actually with Aneesh a couple of days ago. We had him on the show and we asked him how he felt after losing his first round of the candidates, and he doesn't seem to get that bothered. Again, I think.
Well, he's got Twitter to get away with it, hasn't he? To vent, hasn't he?
He's probably gonna vent on Twitter, relax. He's still got tomorrow. I mean, don't write him off. I mean, it's very unlikely. But the way he's played today, if he played like today and just a couple of different decisions at critical moments, in some ways you could say he maybe outplayed Magnus in some positions, or his prep was very good.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I don't think he should be too disheartened. He's played well.
Do you think maybe he doesn't believe himself to the ultimate degree, that in that first game when he had that dominance of the queen coming into f2, and was there an argument to say that he didn't believe in himself, that he didn't want to kick on and win that game? It's almost like I wanted to try and get a simple advantage, but he didn't just like play. He exchanged queens, as we remember, and he should have just carried on.
Yeah, I think some of his decisions today have been really odd. I mean, in this game, again, this is just me looking at the position, but here he took with the f pawn, and I mean, okay, I did say I don't think he should lose this, but I was probably wrong. I mean, why not take with the rook? I think is he
bearing
really
in mind that it's 1.5 points all? It's an insane decision. It really is, isn't it? He should just be able to like this. He can't lose this position effectively, can he?
I mean, the only thing I'm thinking here is that he saw it was a draw after like rook e2, rook d8. Let's say king f1. Now, if Magnus takes it,
rook d1 maybe. Rook d1.
Yeah. If Magnus takes it, Geary's better. So I know. So I think after king f1, Magnus has to play for a win. I mean, a draw. He can't do anything else. And I think here, if he just goes here, check, it's a draw, because you get this kind of thing, either without an exchange of rooks or with. And this position, and maybe Geary saw this as a draw and he thought, I don't want to draw, I'm going to play this. But it was really, really bad decision. That's the only thing I could think of.
Do you know what? Sorry to interrupt you previously, but you know what? If you're going to roll the dice against someone, roll the dice against a person like me. Dare I say, a person like you? But don't roll the dice against a person like Magnus. Are you? You know, you're living in the past. You missed opportunity in game one. Doesn't exist here.
No, I think it's very bad. I mean, I'll totally agree with you. I mean, it's the last round of the day. A draw against Magnus with day one is all right. Roll the dice, you lose the match. Yeah, I mean, don't gamble in a position where it's a Magnus position, right? He loves those kind of positions where he can grind away at the same time. So, is there
a finer endgame player in the world, do you think, Simon?
I don't think there ever has been. Maybe maybe Karpov, Blair Connell, and Ulf Anderson are challengers for that title, but apart from those three illustrious names, probably not Blair, probably not. So yeah, anyway, would you rate yourself up there with the Magnus Carlsen? You know,
let's be absolutely frank, the guy is absolutely insanely different gravy. I would not even be in the same city ballpark universe as him. The guy is just insane. I mean, he's literally going to win this game. And I did predict this might happen from a pawn down, and it doesn't surprise me, the result. He's just I don't understand it. If I did, I'd be a grandmaster like yourself.
Yeah.
I'd be a world-class challenger. I predicted it would happen only because of my appreciation of Magnus, not because of my appreciation of chess. This is insane.
By the way, Blair's not drinking beer at the moment. Is it a Decanti? Do you say nice Hannibal drink? What year?
Chianti.
Chianti, sorry. Chianti. What year?
2017.
2017 and region. Not that I know anything about it, but a nice. It's a nice wine, right?
Yeah, it's a nice wine. I should say something about fothering beans, as I said earlier. You know, that's a Hannibal Lecter reference. You know.
Okay, so what
anyway,
is
back to the game? Let's see. So I've got to say, it's very rare that I get one over you, especially in the chess world, because there's literally very little you don't know. But I tell you what a performance by Magnus.
He's done well. And I suppose the only other game of interest, by the way, Rajabov didn't need to play against Wesley so Rajabov gets the rest.
That's right.
And it looks like today Magnus is going to win.
How did Vash-Lagrave do?
Aronian won, and we now have a look at Hikaru, and he is playing against MVL, and it's just looking very good for Black, and Black only needs to draw. The bishop is not very good here. Black's knight's not great, but it has chances to jump in. It's okay on the side. These pawns. I mean, Hikaru needs a bit of a miracle, right, in this one.
The thing is, he needs a miracle because in game theory terms, Maxime might not have to play the objectively best moves because he simply needs to draw. And that's all his requirement is to win the match. And so if he could find a safe way, I mean, obviously, if I could put myself in Maxime's body now, I'd say Queen B6, just do it.
Well, I mean, Queen B6 if the king was on G1, but maybe do you want to be dropping this one? Possibly,
no, I don't. I just want to find a way to exchange queens.
You're always looking at the queens. You love getting those queens off, don't you? Get the queens off. I mean, why don't you slam dunk this in? Rather than getting the queens off, try to checkmate. Blair, you've got to try checkmate occasionally. You've done this really aggressive course. You've got to go for mate. Get the rook in. Boom. Get it going.
I think if anyone has bear with us to this point, it's fair to say that you are a far stronger and a far more aggressive player than me, ultimately. And you challenged me to try and be aggressive. But Vash-Lagrave, Maxime, should I say, only needs a draw. And let's find the best way to draw. Obviously, it's not Queen B6.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to draw is to play the best moves. And
there you go. Yeah.
I think this is okay. We have a little tap. You might be able to get the queens off now, Blair. Are you getting excited? Rook takes F2.
No, of course.
Or
can I get the queens off?
Rook takes F2. Just take the queen. That's one way.
And 3 virtual handshakes, I believe.
Bishop takes here, but I don't know. This is actually maybe better for him. This is not so clear. I don't know if it's better for
him. Some chances, do you believe?
This has happened.
So if we look at it now, White needs to win, not at all costs. Well, he needs to win this game. Has he got any chances now, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think he does. The bishop is better than a knight generally when there's pawns on both sides of the board, and the reason for that is the bishop is a long range piece, so it can deal with pawns on both sides, and the knight can only deal with pawns on one side of the board, so it can only help. And in this board, there are pawns on both sides, so I like the bishop, which is one good thing. I feel MVL's okay because this pawn is a little bit too, Hikaru's got some weak pawns, but it's maybe a little. I mean, is he just going to win this pawn? If he can just win that pawn, then it's absolutely fine for Black.
He should probably be able to draw this position one way or another, shouldn't he?
He should be able to, yeah. I mean, even he can put the knight on D4. This is the other thing he'd do. If he gets the knight there, his rook's coming in. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not worse. By the way, I'd
like to think I'm not a selfish person, but maybe we can check him with this game exactly as you're throwing it up.
Let's do it. I mean, it was looking great for Aneesh. This is a very easy technical win. I mean, I could even win this. You just put the king on B2. Actually, I think it's as easy as that, right? I mean, let's see.
I was going to say, once again, why don't you explain to us what you see? Because I would never have been able to see this. I can see that Black's probably winning or better, but I would never be able to see this as quickly as you.
Well, I think it's. I mean,
why is it so simple?
I mean, there's a famous Botvinnik game. Okay, he's just playing it very accurate. He's stopping the white king ever coming in. And when you've got a passed pawn, as Black has, in a rook ending, if you have a rook behind the passed pawn, as Black does here, it goes back. I can't remember the Botvinnik rook ending. Maybe someone can remind me in the chat. But the rook behind the passed pawn is the best place for your rook. and it's just a very easy win because white gets in zugzwang. Black can always.
Is that because the white rook can't move away from a1?
Yeah, the fact is the white rook can't move, but the black rook can lose tempo. So at some point, your king will get into the position. So, for example, if you ever had this position here, okay, you got rook a free check, but even if you did not have the check, you want to get the opposition. So your king wants to get in. So you could just go rook a7, and now white is in zugzwang. He can't play a waiting move with his rook because your queen or rook, and when he moves his king, you come in the other way. If he moves his king this way, you come in this way. So it's just that, yeah, and there you go. Magnus has just won. So he's gone through.
That's amazing. Can I ask you a question about this, Simon? I don't know if you indulge in this theory, but how does it's? I know Magnus is brilliant, and we know how brilliant he is, or we believe how brilliant he is. But it's almost like he's got a Svengali type, a sort of power the mystic on his opponents. That when they miss a chance, he almost hypnotizes them into losing a game like this. It's almost like he hypnotized Geary to play f takes e3 when he should have just played rook takes e3. How does he do that?
I mean, yeah, it's strange, isn't it? He does have a power about him, and
it's more than strange. It is like the guy's got some sort of Svengali-like characteristics.
Which... I think if you look at all the top players in history, all world champions that I, maybe not going back so many years, I didn't know so well, but if you look at like Bobby Fischer, Garry Kasparov, all these guys, they were exactly the same, right? Their opponents would freak out against them in no better words. They all hypnotise their opponents somewhat, and I think it is that respect. You've got to be a bit afraid of Carlsen, and if you make an error, you're going to lose. And
I know this won't relate to the viewership, but I've played you a number of games. Every time I play you, I'm fearful of you because I know you're a better player, full stop. But also know that you're a more aggressive player, and you seem to be able to steer the games into territory which I'm very uncomfortable with. And so, understandably, it's like I'm -1 before I even start the game.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I suppose that's why the opening's useful, right? I mean, because you don't really do any chess work because you obviously like following chess, but you don't, apart from this course, haven't worked at your own game for a while. And I think the openings, people do overrate them. They're important, but the most important thing as the opening is really a tool, is to get you into positions that you like playing. It's not to get a winning position. It's not even to get an advantage. An advantage helps. You shouldn't be a lot worse when you play an opening, but it's to get you into a middle game position that you enjoy. And often my style of chess is quite aggressive. Yours is more ending. So if I can lead the game into a complicated position, that will suit me a lot more than you. I suppose that's the problem that you have, but because I know more theory, I guess is the.
There's not so much theory, I guess, but if you could give people advice watching now, if hopefully they're still with us, what would you say your greatest strength is? I mean, obviously you're an incredible tactician, you know about endings, you know about openings, but what would you say your single biggest sort of like game clearing point is for your benefit?
I don't really know. I mean, I think the beard. Saguzi says the beard of knowledge. I don't know. I like it when I'm attacking. I'm quite good with the initiative. So I'm basically a very aggressive player, but I'm also pretty good in the ending as well. So
you've got to be an all-round player. But what advice would you give someone watching at home to how they can improve their game? Is it to find a way of getting the opening to suit their style, or learning theory, or doing something aggressive or passive? What is it?
Well, I think Niels Grandelius summed it up really well the other day. Niels Grandelius is Sweden's top player. He's much stronger than me, and he's one of Magnus Carlsen's seconds. And he was asked the same question, and he basically said, I'm going to answer ex-Netman's idea and question in a second, which I disagree with, actually. But he basically said it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what you work on. You just got to work hard. And I thought that was quite interesting. Chess is really hard to improve. If you decide to work on your openings, there are better ways of doing it. You've got to understand why you're doing it, what you want in the middle game. But if you want to study endings, you just got to work hard. If you work hard at any area, you'll get better. I mean, I personally think a personal coach, they can be good, they can work well, but remember that they are very expensive. If you want to get one, you can't just have one lesson. You need at least 5 hours with someone. And normally a good coach will be like 50, it's going to cost you 500 to 1,000 to get some development. You can do it. You can do a lot of work on your own. You can work very hard on your own. A coach is good, but there are other ways to learn. as well. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, so what would you say is the biggest weakness that people can indulge in?
Anyone indulging when they're
No, what I
getting...
mean is like if like you're suggesting that people should like try and learn the game, working hard at anything is a good thing. But
Yeah.
maybe could it be the case that people spend too much time looking at openings, for example, or
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think people also get into bad habits, and I mean, nowadays with so much information out there, there's two bad habits I would say to avoid. One is relying on the computer for everything, which people do. They literally want to have a computer analysis of everything, but they don't know why. How's that going to teach you? That's one really bad habit. Another bad habit, just because there's so much stuff out there on YouTube and maybe elsewhere, you've got to be a bit careful where you learn from. I mean, I've seen a lot of bad videos suggesting bad things. I don't think any opening's necessarily bad. You can learn any opening, even if it is a bit dubious. But I've seen some. You've got to be careful where you learn from. Not always free is good. You can get free videos on YouTube, just and you can learn the wrong thing. So I think that's look at some John Bartholomew's videos, someone who's established rather than other.
He's an amazing Queen Exchanger.
He's a very good Queen Exchanger, yeah. By the way,
as we're still live, should we go to the live game?
Well, we are on the live game.
Bash of the Graph, it's still going on.
It's still going on, and Hikaru is now equal on material. He's equal on material. So
he needs to win the game, though, I believe.
Sorry.
He needs to win the game, I believe.
He needs to win the game. Yeah.
Okay, should we go live there now, just to show everyone what's going on? Oh, you have done that already. Apologise.
Yeah. But
what's your opinion of this position now? Is Black holding? So
we've only been there. We've only been there for half an hour, Blair. So yeah, I don't. I mean, White's got to win, right? I mean, it looks to me like he can't.
Needs to win, absolutely.
Yeah, it looks like he's making great progress. Yeah, I mean, I think White could win this one. Yeah, is that right?
So what's White's winning plan? I don't see how White can win, personally.
Well, he's got a pawn majority over here. So I think his plan will at some point be to use these pawns. And the other issue is, okay, these will probably get exchanged off, but the E pawn is a little bit of a weakness. I mean, like, for example, if you ever try to activate your rook, I don't know, like go here, which looks very normal. Okay, maybe I'll take your pawn. But at some point, you have to be careful of this kind of trick when the H pawn becomes extremely strong. If your rook starts drifting.
I don't know if we saw that in the previous game, didn't we? Where like Nakamura missed his opportunity, but he still had some dark opportunities in the end game of like H6, H7, H8, didn't we? Yeah. We saw that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
What do you think? What probability do you think if it ridiculously ended up with Rook and Bishop versus Rook? Is that going to be one? Is Vash at a graph? Is he good enough to hold that?
Yeah, MVL will hold that, but Aneesh won that earlier on in the tournament. Aneesh beat Vidit with Rook and Bishop versus Rook, but I think MVL will know how to defend that. He's really good at endings. I mean, I expect it still to be a draw because it probably is. What do you reckon? Draw or?
I definitely think draw. Obviously, I mean, yeah. I'm just wondering, but I mean, from a personal level, I wouldn't want to hold Rook versus Rook and Bishop. I think we know one of the foremost experts in the world at Rook and Bishop versus Rook.
It's this guy again, isn't it? It's this guy, which I don't know, the camera's a bit thing, but Keith Arkle, he's won apparently like 15 out of 15, right? With that.
Simon, he told me he'd won 24 out of 25.
Oh, 24. Oh, he didn't win 25 out of 25.
No, someone held. I want to know who this person was.
Was it you?
No, actually not. I'm not that good. Okay. That's very kind of you, but no.
So he's won 20. No. Cool, that's a lot of Rook. How does he get so many Rook and Bishops versus Rook? That's an insane
exchange standards. Anyway, let's look at this position at the moment. And hold on, why don't we engage the chat? Is Nakamura going to find a way of bluffing him, challenging him? Is he going to be able to turn this around or not? What does everyone think?
And by the way, why we think that, I mean, I just want to say White's got a very simple plan. G5, G6, bang, bang, bang. And Pismo, who talked about Keith's book, we have got a video series from tomorrow. I'd wait till tomorrow, a little secret. It's going to be on 50% off, and it's over 10 hours of endgame training with me and Keith. We have a bit of a laugh. We talk about his endings. He's got a very unique outlook, and for that, with the PGN, so you get basically the electronic book, that's going to be like £40, which is, I think, very good value for 2 Grandmasters tuition on the ending. So check out check out pretty much everything at the GingerGM shop, gingergm.com, is going to be on 50% off. So go and have a look and get yourself some bargains. If you wait until tomorrow, then we'll do that. So,
okay, Simon, if we could be optimistic, White needs a win. How can he try and win it? He may not be able to win it. How can he try and win it?
Push the G pawn, yeah. Push the G pawn. Just that's the first idea is just go G5. Just push the G pawn. Queen to G pawn is okay. I mean, let's see. Can he do it now? Can he go? I mean, MVL's very good at calculating, but can he just go G5 and just push the G pawn? That would be certainly my first thought.
What's your opinion about whether it be a win or a draw? What's your knee-jerk reaction?
I expect a draw, yeah, but it's looking a bit. I don't know what you do against G5. There must be a reason. There must be a reason that G5's not working. I don't know what it is though. Because if you're maybe it's takes. MVL's very good at calculating here, G6 here, and now I probably should get my rook behind your passed pawn, and I've got G7 next. So this is.
So Black needs to find a way to hold this position right here, right now, or counter-attack by promoting his e-pawn, I guess.
I mean, you can go rook h5 here and get your rook behind a pawn, but it looks a little bit suspect. I mean, I can start moving my king, and my king comes up. Maybe you come down here then. I don't know. It's not straightforward, I think.
Let's look at your rook h5 move. What's your purposes behind that?
Well, I mean, White's threatening just to go G7, G8. If I go rook here and you go G7, I go check. I can get rid of that pawn. So
if White side sets with the king, what would you do? You'd still play rook G5, would you?
Okay, so in this position,
king F3, for example, king F2, I don't know.
King F3, and I would just play maybe even rook G5. Yeah, get the rook there, and I'm threatening to come down to G1 as well. Might be okay.
King F2, just for example.
King F2.
I can't advance my pawn, can I?
Save and start moving my king in now, maybe like this.
So White no longer has the prospect of playing G7 anytime soon.
I mean, I can even repeat the position. I can go check here, check, like that. So maybe this is what he's thinking of doing. But it seems a little bit unclear, Blair, don't you think? A little bit?
I think absolutely. I mean, Hikaru's managed to find a way of like mudding the waters at least. And certainly Vashanikov has to work for the draw.
This has happened.
I'm sure he's capable of doing it.
This has happened.
By the way, my friend, I apologise for the fact that it's spoilt for the victor once the vanquishing is done.
Very nice phrase.
Magnus has won.
Yes, he won a while back. Yeah, he's got that.
Oh, sorry, that's forgive me. I was just hoping that we could relive that victory of mine.
You've already won the bet, mate. This has happened. This rook h5 will happen on the board, yeah?
Well, by the way, incredible spot by you to see what's going to happen in this position.
I mean, it's pretty forcing, and I think this is holding. I think the e-pawn is so strong, yeah? We haven't got the evaluation bar on.
No, exactly. The fact it shows 0-0 doesn't mean that we know it's 0-0.
More moves are played. Rook h5. Okay, rook h5, king f2, and it's going really quick now. Bloody hell. Check, check, check. Queen. Hikaru now goes here. This is going to be a draw. Bang, bang, bang. It's a draw. Yeah, okay. Oof. Okay, there we go. Blair, we come to the end of the stream, mate. We've come to the end of the stream.
If I may, can we just have a quick re-evaluation? Or is that too late for us to do that?
Of course.
Okay, so Geary, I thought it was 3-1. It was a great opportunity of a bet of a draw in the match. Turns out he had an amazing opportunity in round one, didn't he?
He did, yes. Geary messed it up a little bit in round one, but he ended up. Geary loses today in the match, so Geary in a bit of trouble there. Now, in the next one,
dare I say, I know, I appreciate I should let you speak, but if people have been watching the stream from the start, obviously Magnus missed the key move Queen E1, which hides the queen's problems.
Indeed,
yeah,
getting
exactly
the queen's off. Yeah.
Now, moving on, please.
Yeah. Okay, so just to remind everyone, it's the same format tomorrow, except that if it is the match is still drawn, they have a playoff, which we'll obviously be covering. We're covering it all day tomorrow. Might get Blair back on tomorrow. I know there's some other people. Lawrence Trent might be joining us. Even Danny Gormadi shows some interest. So that would be good. Now, before we do a little raid, today's results, okay, we'll go through it. Now, Magnus Carlsen, okay, Rajabov was the player of the day. Fantastic. He beat Wesley So. He's won today. Hikaru lost to MVL. Magnus Carlsen in the last round and the important game went through today against Aneesh. And then Aronian won his last 2 games to win against Nepo. So very, very exciting. And before we do go, I would like everyone to thank Blair for coming on board. It's been nice and relaxed. I think it's been a lot of fun. It's been pretty chilled out. So yeah, everyone give Blair a massive thank you. I'm also trying to find someone now to raid. And Chess Weeb raided us last time, so we're going to return the favour. But yeah, everyone thank Blair. And Blair, any final words? Well, not hopefully final, but any final words for the day from you, sir?
My final word is I expect Nepo to fight back tomorrow.
Nepo to fight back. Yeah, I expect so. And it's going to be very exciting. Well, cheers, Blair. Thank you also to everyone who's joined in.
Thank you so much for everyone being so polite to me. I love it.
We're going to try to get the webcams better tomorrow yet again. I hope so. We'll work on that. Thank you very much. And we'll see you all another time. Thanks, Blair. And it looks like the wine's going down well, Blair, with you.
Absolutely.
All good stuff.
Ciao, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Good night, all. Good night, all. Bye-bye.
Just going to do a raid and...